Management. Thank you so much na nag-click ng record. Maraming salamat, Miss Daphne. Ayan. So ngayon, gusto natin i-acknowledge ang participants ng bawat isa. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao tayo. Pero kailangan, syempre, bago tayo mag-umpisa, mapakilala natin ang bawat isa. Hopefully, matapos natin yung acknowledgement ng participants bago mag 9:30 para sabi ko nga punong-puno tayo ngayon. Alam niyo ba yung ginawa ng ating resource? Sa sobrang dami niyang i-share. Parang kailangan niya yata magbawas para magkasya tayo sa 9 to 2:30. Ayan. Pero exciting kasi ang NATCO rin ay naghahanap ng mga national trainers. So, huwag kayo magtaka kung isang araw, i-invite kayo ng NATCO for a national training. Basta isang conference ng mga national trainers para mas mapalawak, mas ma-harvest ng NATCO yung mga magagaling sa ating sektor. Para mas makuha natin yung parang, syempre, magiging reach yung mga pool of trainers natin. Sige. Unang, kailangan ipakilala natin yung bawat isa. Pag tinawag po kayo, kindly open your mic. Spotlight natin. Magpakilala po kayo, name or yung nickname na gusto niyo pong itawag sa inyo para sa ating 2-day webinar, TOT. And then yung inyong current designation doon sa cooperative. At mga kung ilang taon na po kayo doon sa cooperative. Okay po ba yun? Name, nickname, designation, at saka kung ilang taon na po kayo sa cooperative. Sige. Mag-stop. Pero ito muna yung ating mga cooperative. We have cooperatives from Luzon, Jollibee Food Corporation Employees MPC, Excellent Peoples. Yan. Thank you so much sa yung mga cooperative na nagpadala po sa inyo. Kamsur MPC, Bicol po ito. Calapan Labor Service Development Cooperative, Nueva Vizcaya Alay Kapwa, MPC. St. Vincent Ferrer Parish Multipurpose Cooperative. So, ang Nueva Vizcaya Region 2, the St. Vincent in Saromblon po. Tapos, syempre sa NATCO. And we also have from Visayas, Uentay Employees MPC, Lamak MPC, ayan. Pagkakataon nyo to para mag-network din po para at least i-take notes nyo. Sino ba yung mga classmate ko sa TOT para balang araw maka-network kami sa kanila. Mindanao sa First Valley Credit Cooperative, Oro Integrated Cooperative, Silangan Multipurpose Cooperative, and Socorro Empowered Peoples MPC. So individually, let's call on, unahin natin yung sa nag-register. Stop share muna ako. Unahin natin si Ma'am Imeya. Ma'am Imeya, nandyan ka na po ba? Ayan. Mukhang wala pa si Ma'am Imeya. Ma'am Imeya, kung nandyan ka, patayin mo ang ilaw. Wala pa. Mukhang wala pa si Ma'am Imeya. Sige, lagpasan natin si Ma'am Imeya. Ayan. Sundan natin si Ma'am Cherry at saka ang mga taga Jollibee Food Corporation. Ma'am Cherry, take it away.
Okay, good morning po. I'm Cherry Gonzalez from JFC Co-op. Masyado na maikli yung pangalan para magkaroon ng nickname, Miss Jean. So, Cherry talaga. Bali, this year, 15 years na po ako sa cooperative. I'm the general manager of JFC Co-op. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Cherry. Sabi ni Ma'am Cherry, may kasama daw siya ngayon ng mga magagaling na consultant at saka ang kanilang dating chair. So, in short, behave daw si Miss Cherry ngayon. Kasi may kasama siya. Sundan natin si Ma'am Oma. Ma'am Oma?
Yeah, magandang umaga sa inyo lahat. Ako po si Ma'am Norma Oma for short. I've been with Jollibee Co-op for almost 16 years. But I've been with the cooperative for 44 years.
Wow!
Morning sa inyo lahat.
Mga pitos pa yung karamihan sa atin nasa co-op na si Ma'am Oma. Hindi pa ano. Sige, salamat po Ma'am Oma. Welcome po sa atin.
I've been training consultant ako ng JFC Co-op now. Kasi si Cherry na yung GM. I was formerly the GM.
Naku, pwede natin itong i-friend to si Ma'am Oma para sa ating national trainers. Ma'am ha, kinumari, no? Thank you so much, Ma'am. Sige po, kasama rin natin si Ma'am Nenita.
Good morning. Yes, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Nenita, but my friends call me Nenet. Ako po yung HR consultant ng JFC Co-op. I've been with the Co-op, with JFC Co-op since I was an employee before of Jollibee, before I retired, during which time I was the HR manager also of one of the brands, particularly Jollibee and Burger King. Nung nag-retire po tayo po yung naging HR consultant ng JFC Co-op. In-charge po ako ng organizational development as well as training for our management team and also the DOT together with Ma'am Oma. I guess that's it. And I've been with the cooperative even before I was with the GFC po. Maraming pong salamat, and I really look forward to this trade of training.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Nenette. Ayan. So, huwag kayong magtataka kung may Jollibee na dumating sa inyo. Sa inyo ba may dumating? Sa akin may dumating eh.
Ay,
Hindi, joke lang,
ganon.
joke lang. Biro lang po, Ma'am.
Ganon.
Nang-inggit po eh, no? Salamat po, Ma'am Nenette, Ma'am Oma, and then Ma'am Cherry. Sundan po natin ng ating mga participant from First Valley, si Ma'am Glenda and Ma'am Hamael. Ayan. Take it away po. Sige, unahin natin si Ma'am Glenda. Nagko-concentrate pa ang internet ni Ma'am Glenda. Baka nandyan po. Sorry po kung si Hamael. Tama po ba yung pronunciation ko? Nagko-concentrate pa rin ng internet. Balikan natin ang mga taga First Valley Credit Cooperative. Ayan. Sige, yung mga taga NATCO muna. Okay lang ba kayo mamit ang mga taga NATCO? Ay, intermittent ang signal. Kapit lang po. Kapit lang po sa ating internet signal. Mag-alay ng itlog para sa internet signal. Unahin natin muna mga taga NATCO. Paunahan ni Ma'am Hazel Ann Mangaya Mondido. Ma'am Hazel.
Okay, good morning po sa lahat. I am Hazel Ann Modino or Sai. And galing po ako sa Children and Youth Unit po. And nag-start po ako sa NATCO noong 2008. So, paki-compute na lang po. So, thank you so much po.
Ayan, children and youth, kaya bagets na bagets pa si Ma'am. Mga 12 years old din si Ma'am Hazel nung nagsimula siya. Hindi naman lahat, di ba, fresh habang nagpapakilala. Ayan. Thank you so much, Sai. Ayan. Next naman, si EJ. Kung mas fresh si Sai, mas fresh itong si EJ. EJ, take it away.
Hello, magandang umaga po sa lahat. Ako po ay si Eniko Jimirez or EJ. Kasama ko din po si Miss Sai sa Children and Youth, isang training officer. So, bale po magpo 4 years na po ako with NATCO. Thank you so much.
Yan. Yan yung mga kahit millennials, magagaling na mga bata. Ayan. Thank you so much, EJ. Ayan. Next natin si another Hazel. Si Hazel Denida. Len, andyan pa ba? Ayan. Na-traffic siguro sa Antipolo. Len, paramdam ka, Len, ha? Wala pa si Len. Okay, punta na tayo sa mga taga-excellent peoples. Ito, kung may Jollibee, may excellent. Ay, ano po, ayan. May nagsalita?
Hello, ma'am.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sir Alvin.
I'm Alvin Raquel po from Excellent People's Multipurpose Cooperative. Friends ko, tinatawag nila ako Binoy. Hindi ko alam. Kamukha kaya yata si Robin Padilla, pero sabi ko mas pogi ako doon.
Pasilip naman, sir.
Ayaw mag-blue ng camera ko, ma'am. Hindi ko alam.
Para malaman natin kung Robin o Ruben Padilla yan.
Robin yata to, ma'am. Pero
Robin.
inopen ko yung camera ko. Ayaw niya.
Naku, pa-excite naman si Sir Robin mamaya sa
Hindi
atin.
ko alam ba't ayaw niya, ma'am.
Sige, mamaya yan, sir, lalabas din, sir.
Anyway, ma'am, I'm top manager sa Excellent People's Multipurpose Cooperative. No? Ito lang, recently, last month lang ako nalipat dito. Pero I'm 13 years na po dito sa co-op. Yun lang po, nag-start po ako as a delivery rider, then ayun, sa tulong ng kooperatiba, develop tayo hanggang sa tumaas-taas ng position. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po sa lahat.
Salamat, Sir Alvin, or aka Sir Binoy. Sir Binoy, di ba ang excellent people is parang sa food chain din siya, yung mga
Opo.
empleyado rin, katulad ng
Opo. Manpower po, ano kami sa Shakey's po, ma'am. Yan, Shakey's.
Shakey's. Ayan, so kung may dumating din sa inyong pizza, huwag kayong magtataka, ha?
Opo, wag po kayong mag-alala. Pinapangako po ko yan, pero pinangako ko lang po, ha?
Magpabook din kayo kasi ng Grab para or kaya ng Food Panda para may dumating sa inyo.
Sige,
Ayan. Salamat, Sir Alvin. Ayan. Sige po. Sunod naman natin is from our cooperative in Region 7 sa Lamak. Si Sir Jovito.
Hello, good morning.
Morning,
Ako
sir.
po si Jovito or Jovit Gambong. Actually, hindi ito sanction ng Lamak because I'm just an ordinary member. This is for my personal career development.
Wow.
Tatlo yung cooperative wherein member ako. Isa yung First Community Cooperative, yung PICO. And then pangalawa yung Xavier University Multipurpose Cooperative. And then pangatlo itong Salamak. Actually, matagal na ako sa cooperative movement since 1993 pa. right after my graduation sa Xavier University as Agricultural and Biosystems Engineer. And then ngayon, nasa Cebu na ako. Nagtuturo ako sa college sa University of San Jose Recoletos at saka Mandawi City College. So itong pag-join ko sa co-op is basically for my own personal development kasi may mga engagement ako ngayon din sa sa cooperatives wherein they hired me as their consultant because I have my MBA and Doctor in Business Administration. So just to have a more knowledge, no, technical, especially this project management. Although meron na kami yan sa sa DBA namin, I think naging project manager na ako, but I really want to the cooperative area kung paano talaga yung paggawa ng project, pag-planning ng project, and then yung pagmamanage ng project. So yun ang matagal na ako sa cooperative din. But ordinary member lang.
Salamat. Ordinary pa yan, so hindi pa yan special pero bigatin na. Thank you so much, Sir Jovit. Sabi ko na nga ba, nandito yung mga bigatin ng cooperative, ng cooperative sector. Salamat po, Sir Jovit. Next natin is from isa sa mga pinakamasipag na GM, CEO na kilala ko. Pwede natin tawagin si Ma'am Annie din. Ma'am Annie? Sa sobrang sipag ni Ma'am Annie, wala pa siya dito. Ma'am Annie, nandyan ka ba? O, di ba masipag talaga? Next natin, wala pa si Ma'am Annie. Jump tayo sa Mindanao. Punta tayo sa Oro. We have 3 participants. 4. I think 4 sa Oro Integrated. Pangunahan ni Ma'am Jenny, sunod si Ma'am Susette, tapos si Ma'am Shelly, and then si Ma'am Shinamay. Ayan. Take it away po.
Good morning po, Ma'am Chin, and sa lahat po ng participants dito sa ating TOT. Thank you po for having us. I'm Jenny Swafield. I'm from the Youth Coordinator po dito sa youth program ng Oro Integrated Cooperative, and hoping for a productive training po with all of you. Thank you so much.
Ilan taon ka na, Ma'am, sa cooperative, Ma'am Jenny?
Magpo 4 years pa po ako this year, October.
Hi.
Thank you po.
Happy anniversary po sa October.
Yes po, thank you po.
Next po si Ma'am Suzette. Thank you so much, Ma'am Jenny.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Suzette Haliado, but you can call me Sue or Miss Sue. I'm 4 years na sa cooperative from Sales and Marketing Department. Sales and Marketing Assistant ng position. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. Mukhang artistahin ni Ma'am Sue. Ma'am, ilang years na po sa cooperative, Ma'am?
4 years, Miss Chin.
Aba, 4 years din nga naman. Sabay-sabay silang na-hire. Thank you so much po, Ma'am Sue. Sunod natin si Ma'am Shelly.
Hello po. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Shelly Liedo. You can call me Michelle or Shell. Tulad din ng iba, 4 years din sa, 4 years lang last April this year. So I'm the acting membership and Education Relations Officer of Oro Integrated Cooperative. So hoping then for a very productive training for this day and tomorrow. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Ma'am. Gusto ko yung acting, parang uma-act ka lang, parang hindi ka talaga sa membership. Acting. Ayan, na-miss ko si Sir Emmanuel. Sir Emmanuel?
Hello po, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Emmanuel Jasper A. Abunyawan. You can call me EJ for short. Under po ako sa Community and Social Responsibility. At bago lang po ako dito sa Oro Integrated Cooperative po. Thank you.
Dalawang EJ natin. EJ the male, EJ the female. Ayan. Hi, Sir EJ. Sige po. Next naman from Oro. Kanina sabi natin si Ma'am Shinamay.
Hi po. Good morning, everyone. I'm here po. So, I'm Chinimay Aldeano, or just call me Chin or Chini. Kasangay ko si Ma'am Chin. So, bago lang din po ako dito sa Oro Integrated ng magti 10 months pa lang po. And then, I'm a membership education specialist po. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. Pag sinabi mo yung pangalan ni Shinimay, parang hindi maiwasang magpakitin. I'm Shinimay. Parang ganun. Magpapakit ka talaga pag binanggit mo yung pangalan ni Ma'am Shinimay. Thank you so much po. Tapos we have 6 participants from St. Vincent. Tawagin natin ang mga participants from St. Vincent. Pangunahan ni Sir Hill.
Good morning po. Good morning. I'm Gil Francisco, HR Manager po ng St. Vincent Co-op. Kasama ko po ang aming branch manager, Ma'am Malu.
Maria Ismar Conisio po.
Thank you.
Mahiyain si Ma'am Malu, yumuko ka agad. Ay, Ma'am Malu.
May tinitip.
Ayan, matatagal na po ba kayo sa cooperative dyan sa St. Vincent?
Ako po ay nasa 12 years na po.
Wow.
1 month and 7 days.
O
HR.
binilang pa yung 7 days, biruin mo naman. Mag-8 days kaya si Sir, abangan natin. Ayan. Salamat po Ma'am Malu at saka si Sir Hill. Next naman sa atin sa St. Vincent si Sir Juan Chito. Ayan, pang mayaman. Juan Chito.
Hello po, magandang araw po. So, Juan Chito Solabo po ng St. Vincent Co-op. So, pwede po ninyo akong tawagin na B-Boy, no? So, I start working sa St. Vincent since 2013. So, nasa 9 years na rin po ako sa kooperatiba. So, as of now, field supervisor po ako ng isang satellite po ng amin pong kooperatiba sa San Jose. Yan lang po, magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Salamat, Sir. Si Sir nakamas pero labas ang ilong. Dapat, Sir, Ayan. Salamat po. We also have from St. Vincent, I forgot kung si Ma'am Amor kanina yung isa, tsaka si Sir John Paul. Hello? Yung ating dalawa pa po from St. Vincent. Dalawa, tatlo pa. I think tatlo pa. Ma'am Maria Luz, Sir, Sir JP, Ma'am Amor.
Sir Amor po yan, Sir
Ay,
Amor.
sorry. Sir Amor pala.
Kasama ko po si Ma'am Malu.
Ayan. Si Sir Amor. Bihira ang Amor na Ayan, Sir Amor.
Good morning po sa lahat. Mr. Amor Moichanti po, representative of St. Vincent. 15 years po sa kooperatiba. And from Romblon po. Good morning.
Good morning po. Sundan naman ni Sir Joel, si Sir Amor.
Good morning po sa lahat. Ako po si Joel Galpo of St. Vincent Co-op. Bali branch manager po ako ng Maine. So ako po ay 15 years na rin po sa cooperative. Salamat po.
Salamat Sir Joel at saka si Sir JP, Sir John Paul. Sir?
May papasok pa lang po yata, medyo mahirap po ang signal sa island.
Okay. Nasa island na. Okay. Baka nagkakabit pa lang ng antena si Sir John Paul. Sige, abangan natin. Next naman, may natira na tayong participant from ayan na. Tawagin natin from Calapan Labor Service. Ito ay sa Mindoro. Si Ma'am Marjorie. Ma'am Marjorie? Wala pa si Ma'am Marjorie. Sige, next. From NATCO, natira natin si Ma'am Nympha, si Vina, at saka si Miss Mona, at saka si Miss Gina. Ma'am Nympha? Ayan, wala din si Ma'am Nympha. Sundan natin si Ma'am Vina. Ma'am Vina?
Hi, hello. Good morning po sa lahat. So, I am Vina Rempilio from NATCO Gender and Development and Women Enterprise Unit. So, pwede niyo po akong tawagin Vina na lang. And 6 na taon na po ako sa NATCO. Thank you po.
Salamat, Vina na lang. Ayan. Si Vina na lang. Yan si Vina. Yan sa mga promising. The most promising is mga promising na staff ng NATCO. Diba, Hazel? Next naman si Miss Gina. Miss Gina. O di ba may sofa si Miss Gina? Ayan.
Yan, hi po. Gina Lianza po from NATCO under admin. 14 years na po sa NATCO. Thank you.
May ugat na din. Salamat, Miss Gina. Miss Gina, anong current designation mo sa NATCO?
Procurement officer po.
Aray, procurement, bibili-bili. Procurement, yan. Next mom po, si Miss Mona.
Hello, Jean. Good morning. It's nice to see you again. Good morning,
Napaka-fresh
everyone in the
naman.
house. I am Mona Lisa Nicolas, but you can call me Mona for short. And I've been with NATCO for 8 years already. Galing po sa training and then galing din ako sa credit, naging membership staff din ako, and then bumabalik sa training. Training officer of the training unit of ETCG. Thank you.
Ikot lang yan, Miss Mona.
Yeah.
Diba?
Parang Sarah Geronimo lang.
Sarah Geronimo ang peg. Sige. Salamat, Miss Mona. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sige, balik tayo doon sa ating nalagpasan. From Nueva Vizcaya, si Sir Predner. Andiyan po ba si Sir from Nueva Vizcaya? Region 2? Wala pa. Sige, from Silangan, MPC. Chrisman.
Hello po. Good morning po sa lahat.
Hi, ma'am.
Ako po si Chrisman Riquilio. Pwede niyo po akong tawaging Men. Tapos 10 years na po ako sa Silangan, but 1 year pa lang po ako as compliance officer. Thank you po.
Salamat, ma'am. Ang ating Silangan is from Mindanao, ma'am, di ba?
Yes po. Yes po.
Saan po sa banda sa Mindanao, ma'am?
Davao City po.
Para mapupunta ako, di ba? Ayan, thank you so much, ma'am, Chrisman. Then, syempre, kailangan natin from Socorro Empowered, Ma'am Charmaine. Ma'am Charmaine. Mukhang wala. Meron po ba ako? Ayan, si Ma'am Charmaine. Ma'am Charmaine, go. Take it away. Ayaw mag-on ng mic ni Ma'am Charmaine sa ngayon. Baka may technical problem. Ayan na si Ma'am. Ayan, Ma'am. Idadab ko na lang si Ma'am kasi walang sound si Ma'am. Hi, ako si Charmaine. Ma'am Charmaine, wala kang audio. Baka may technical problem. Ayan, Ma'am. Sige. Go, Ma'am. Sige, si Ma'am Leslie muna, may mic yata si Ma'am Leslie. Tapos si Ma'am Charmaine.
Hello po, good morning. I am Leslie Mondragon. I am the training officer of SOEMCO and I've been with SOEMCO for 6 years now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. Andiyan po ba si Ma'am Si Ma'am Charmaine? Ma'am Charmaine? Ayan na.
Hi po. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Pam. Kamusta po?
Okay lang po, ma'am. Siguro yung laptop ko yung may problem sa audio. I'm the HR and admin officer po of SOEMCO. Magpa 5 years na po ako this November. So, yun lang po. Thank you.
Salamat po. Marami pong salamat sa lahat. Ayan, si Ma'am Flor from NB Alay Kapwa. Ma'am?
Hello, good morning, Madam Chien.
Hi, Madam.
I am Flor de Lisa Hecobe. I've been with the cooperative for 13 years, pero bago lang po akong DOD ng Alay Kapwa. I am a school superintendent of DepEd, and I had been a trainer facilitator of DepEd. Kaya naman gusto ko rin na umattend ng ganitong klaseng training for an additional exposure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Salamat po, ma'am. Naway malakas ang ating internet yun sa Region 2. Sana hindi masyadong maulan. Sige po. Meron din kasama si Ma'am si Ma'am Flor si Sir Arnold tsaka Predner. Andiyan na po ba sila?
Magkakahiwalay kasi kami, Ma'am Chin.
Oo nga, ma'am. May parang wala pa yata. Ayan na yan sila, sir. Sir, take it away po. Mukhang meron din, Mukhang meron ding difficulty sa internet. Si Ma'am Mary. Ma'am Mary, ikaw na lang muna, ma'am. Mukhang may internet problem din. Anyways, sige, at least makakasama niyo naman po ang bawat isa sa 2 araw. Maghapon po tayo rito hanggang 2:30. So, hindi man nakapagpakilala ngayon. Meron po ba ako nakalimutan? Hindi natawag? Baka naduling po ako, na-miss ko po doon sa list. Kung wala naman, huwag kayong magagalit. Maaaring habol na lang tayo. Ma'am Mary, okay na internet mo, ma'am?
Come again? Hello, ma'am.
Hi,
Ako po ba?
Opo.
Hello po. Naririnig niyo po ako?
Yes, ma'am.
Internet connection. Hello? Yes, ma'am. Good morning. So, sorry po. Medyo mahina po yata yung internet connection. But good morning to everyone. I am Mary Villani Villarenas. I've been with the cooperative for more than 21 years already. So 8 years po as the executive secretary, at the same time the records officer of NVAC MPCO po. And after I was able to land a job in the government service, a year after, I was appointed po as the board secretary of NVAC MPCO po up to the present. So magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. You can call me Mai for short. Thank you.
Ma'am Mai, ano po NVAC po? Tama po ba?
Alay Kapuan, Nueva Vizcaya,
okay.
Alay. Kasama ko po si Ma'am Flor.
Sige po. Ayan, sa mga cooperative na
Okay,
mag-change thank you po, ng participant, advice po kami para po yung mga certificate para doon sa mga bagong participant natin at hindi yung mga old na i-register o old names. Ayan, sige po. Marami pong salamat sa bawat isa. Sana po natandaan ninyo na kahit paano ng konti, pero I'm sure si ating resources nag-take down notes sa mga inyong mga pagpapakilala, mga information ninyo. Ngayon, gusto ko na pong tawagin ang aking co-facilitator, si Ms. Daphne, para ipakilala ang ating resource speaker. Ms. Daphne.
Thank you, Ms. Chin. Hello po at good morning po sa ating 32 Zoom participants. Sana po nakapag-breakfast at kape na po tayong lahat para tayo energize. Ako po ulit si Daphne of NATCO KRC, and I am very honored po to introduce our resource speaker for TOT. Ms. Rose started her career in HR as a recruitment assistant for a Japanese-owned IT company, Tsukiden Software Philippines Incorporated, or TSPI. She then transferred to a World Bank-funded project, LAMP PIO2, or Land Administration and Management Project, Prototype Implementation Office 2 as Training Specialist 3. She was also the HR and admin manager of an ISO-certified manpower resource company, Servicio Filipino Incorporated, and she functioned as well as board secretary and established the HR Council for SFI's group of companies. So, according kay Ms. Rose, marami raw siyang natutunan on project management during her stay in SFI. So, for sure, marami tayong makukuha alaman sa webinar natin ngayong araw. Location, major in guidance and counseling at the University of the Philippines. She also serves as the managing consultant for Sophia Training, Review, and Consultancy. She has several articles on HR management posted at Voices Yahoo and other sites. So nakikita naman natin na very experienced si Ms. Rose. And now, she's been with NATCO Network since February 23, 2012, and she's one of the pioneer consultants of ETCG's consultancy unit. Her accomplishment is being able to publish through NATCO Network her job analysis and job evaluation handbook dated May 2017. Also, she has completed an online course on global human capital trends with Columbia University School of Professional Studies, completed training of trainers with ACCU, and is a certified SDA analyst. She graduated from her postgraduate studies, Masters in Entrepreneurship, Social Enterprise Development for Nation Building at Ateneo Graduate School of Business. She was also one of GWLN's 2021 scholars on GWLN 2021 Executive Readiness Summit. with more than 27 years of work experience or expertise in the HR and OD, 17 years of which spent in the corporate setting from varied industries and more than 10 years in the cooperative sector. Without further ado, everyone, let us all welcome Ms. Mary Rose Elgov.
Thank you very much, Daphne. Ayan, fresh from UP Los Baños po ang ating interns today. Thank you din, Chin, and to all the participants for joining me. I hope you're hearing me loudly, no, and clear. Clear naman ang audio natin, walang hangin coming from the electric fan. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm happy that we were able to go through the introduction ng bawat isang participant. As I can see, very mix ang ating mga participants today. We have trainers, kaya most likely those trainers who joined our seminar today or webinar today would like to get some materials for the project management. That is your expectations. That might be your expectations. And then there are some of you who are also practitioners and implementors of projects, no, yung project execution. And then we also have experts. There are project leads who approve yung mga budget for the projects, and most likely the one who's overseeing the completion of the projects and the success of the project. So I would like to actually explain what you will get from this program. Kasi compress siya, it's very difficult to come out with a project management, project planning, and management program na kumbaga in just 2 days and then shorten time pa. But what I will share with you are the fundamentals of project planning, how we can simplify it for our cooperators, sa mga implementers natin. So maybe those experts in project planning, like si Sir Jovito, can actually help me, no, to provide some examples. Actually, yung ating project planning management is I gained the expertise from Chucky then as the HR trainer. That was my last position with Chucky then. And then from Servicio Filipino, which is a workforce management company. So marami sa atin dito handling the workforce. I heard may mga HR, no? And meron tayong mga who are actually in the services. Like yung sa Shakey's, si Sir Alvin or Sir Binoy, no? And sa JFC, sa Jollibee Foods Corporation. So may mga workforce management siguro tayong ginagawa. So that's where I gained, no, sa Servicio Filipino. I was the corporate HR manager, at the same time the board secretary of the organization before I left and transferred to NATCO. When I transferred to NATCO, that's the time I realized that cooperative is a very unique organization. You have to match the type of organization and with the way you manage the organization. Parang iba kasi yung needs ng cooperative, iba yung culture, values, and pacing nila when it comes to the development of their people. So medyo, since we are in the cooperatives right now, cooperative sector, that's how I'm trying to align our program, yung fundamentals of project planning and management. But as reference for this program, we had as reference yung PMI book, no, from the Project Management Institute, and there will be some games later on. Daphne will facilitate some group dynamics, parang icebreaker lang after lunch. And then winners will receive a copy of the ebook on the project management. So parang isang freebies natin for those who would win the icebreakers. But you can buy naman the ebook online. So it's in Amazon as well. It's just very hindi naman masyadong mataas yung presyo anyway. Or maybe kung sino yung maging winners would be very mapagbukas na, no, they can share. Masabi nating generous din if they would like to share with the fellow participants. Okay, so for these fundamentals of project planning and management, to start with, I'd like to inform you that all of you were invited in the online courses. So when I check yung mga students natin sa ating self-paced online courses, only few accepted the invitation. Baka na-miss natin on our inbox, you will receive an email of course invitation from Co-op Academy at natco.coop. Yung example ko lang dito, it's a different course, no? But what you will get is the TOT on project planning and management. Mag-change lang yung title. If you cannot find this sa inbox, probably it's in your spam mail, no? And if you haven't seen it yet, maybe you have received already the invitation coming from me. I prepared this invitation for the LMS. And those who change the participants for their cooperatives, baka yung naunang naka-register na email ang naka-receive nito. So inside that email, you will find this link. You need to register. So Ma'am Chair is very familiar with this already kasi she's been using the LMS or the Co-op Academy online learning canvas natin. Okay, so just register your email, take note of your password and email, keep it because we don't have access to your personal account. So when you log in, you will find an invitation from Project Planning and Management. So accept, do not decline, just accept the invitation. So inside this, okay, we have all the materials, the presentation, the explanation of the slides, makikita ninyo. So I'll just quickly show the Canvas module. Okay,
Rose, may nag-PM po sa akin, yung daw course is not yet available daw sa side nila.
Oh, but it's publicly shared na, no? So we'll check, baka nagkaroon ng problem with the publishing. Sige. But have you tried accepting the invitation? Anyone who have tried accepting the invitation? Kung yes
May
po.
yes try po ako, ma'am. Lumalabas dito parang hindi pa accessible.
Oh, okay.
In-attach ko yung email and then yung password, hindi pa accessible po.
But you have to register, sir.
Yung registration niya, tatype ko yung password ko, yung email
Ayaw
address at password. Ayaw pumasok doon sa ma'am, yung Co-op Natco network na may email at saka password. Yung pag
Okay.
mag-login ka,
Okay, let me walk you through the Canvas platform. Yes, Ma'am Cherry. Tutulungan tayo ni Ma'am Cherry.
Ma'am, hindi pa talaga available kasi ang nakikita ko pa lang yung mga previous ko.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what you will do for those who are new to this, no? You just have to click on the link, enter your email and password, tapos just log in or register on the course. Now, kung hindi nyo pa siya nakikita, probably there's a problem with the course dahil published na siya. I'll double check with what we have online. But what you will see, sige po, later after our training, I will troubleshoot this. Baka kaya hindi ninyo na idadagdag, ano? Sige, I'll just walk you through the module first para pagka kapasok na kayo, you will know what you will find from the LMS. So this should appear on your canvas. So accept. Once you accepted it, you will have to go through the welcome and then maybe you can start the module 1 if you are already familiar with LMS ng Canvas or if you are familiar with Coursera, no? So either you go through that or you're going to use the modules like this one. Yan. When you go through the modules, naka-line up na yung mga courses na nandito. We have here how to use the learning platform, the introduction about the fundamentals of project planning and management. Nandito yung mga course overview. And then the start of the program, yung life cycle, kasama dyan stakeholders definition, the tools. So we'll just click on an example of the subject or yung topic. So meron tayong makikita dito. These are some of the slides I used. May explanation na siya. And then you can just click on next to continue on the program. Okay, so we have here also some tools shared that you can use during training. So once published or accepted na yung sa ating setting, I'll double check this later. And then I'll make sure that you get access on the program even after the training or webinar. So let me just continue na lang with, there's also some video inside it, no? So let us just proceed with our webinar on the topic project planning and management. Since TOT po ito, what we did is we kumbaga encapsulized the materials and the things that you can use to run or rerun the program. So you can use this to orient the members of your project team, or you can actually use it for reminders on what are the different steps when you do some project planning or when you do some project management. Okay, so these are the learning objectives. We will identify the key activities in the project life cycle. Then we will try to recognize what are the different elements or components of a project. So ano ba yung mga kailangan nating resources when we begin a project? We will also try to understand ano ba yung difference ng project with the activities. And what would be the possible downfall of a project, or sabihin na natin, what will make it unsuccessful? So we'll try to understand those things. And at the same time, how we are going to monitor and track our projects, the project implementation. Okay, I'll just look at your chat box, no? May nakapasok na ilan sa inyo. So siguro, those who are not able to enter yet the Canvas, later, after our training, no, maybe you can give me a message. My email is mlgob@natco.coop, or you can chat me sa Mary Rose Gob sa FB para mabilis naming makita those who have issues with the LMS. Okay. So thank you sa mga nag-share ng kanilang experience today when they tried the LMS. Okay, so going back to our objective, we will also try to capture and document your projects, yung mga lessons learned from our experience sa project planning, and then at the same time, how can we end or close the project? Kadalasan kasi pag tapos na yung project, parang we just finish and then it ends. So sayang yung project kapag walang continuity. So we need to make sure that later on, when we transfer the project and make it a part of the operations, dapat may proper turnover din tayo. Okay? So for today, our first topic would be on let's get things started. So more on the basic information muna tayo. We will not discuss about the things like yung mga softwares. Magiging example lang natin siya, but we will not go through the principle of the softwares. We'll go through the principles of how we can do it manually. Kasi marami sa co-ops, manual pa. We use Excel instead of using yung mga softwares. Very expensive kasi yung mga project management softwares. And today we will also discuss topic 2, which is how we are going to develop the plans. Okay? So, under topic 1, specific content are project goals, setting the project goals. yung 3 bottom lines na tinatawag on project planning, yung tinitignan natin, these 3 bottom lines should be present. And then the organization, how should you start the project? And in planning, we will look into the project scoping. When you say scoping, it's not just the schedules. Who are the different stakeholders and ano yung extent or coverage ng ating project, no? So, and then what can you sacrifice? Let's say your priorities are more on short ka sa budget. So your priorities would be to speed up the project. So saan ka pwedeng mag-sacrifice na area concerning the 3 bottom lines? Ano yung mga trade-off natin? Tomorrow we'll have topic 3 on how we can improve the plan, how we can execute the plan, and then the closure of the project, yung ating final documentation and impact evaluation. Okay, so let's go with topic 1. Okay, siguro you are familiar with the different types of projects. Merong macro, which is very large. Merong product development na projects. And then, meron din tayo naman mga services, no, that we render to our members. So, yung iba siguro, lalo na yung mga nasa agriculture, would be doing some project planning for their products and services. Like sa Jollibee, sometimes they actually go into product development ng burger, like new types of burger, di ba? Meron tayong mga ganyang may mga ganyan tayong way of developing our products for our customers. So, when it's micro, madali lang i-manage. Okay, so like we are definite with the output, no? But there are some projects that you will need the participation of the customers to determine if it will work. Like kung halimbawa ang project mo would be on a course o di naman kaya ay gagawa tayo ng isang training program for our members o kaya naman mga services for our members. Siguro wala pa namang nag-i-invest ng kanilang capital on large scale na mga services and products like the plane or the car development. These are most likely kadalasan sa cooperatives, what we have are more on the members' needs, addressing the members' needs. Siguro meron ibang co-op, no? They have this project of building a hospital or a clinic for their members' needs. So para sa health development ng kanilang mga members. Ito medyo large scales na yan for the cooperatives. But later we'll understand as well that there are some projects na ang scope is it will take not only short years like 2 years or 3 years, but it will take them at least 5 years to 10 years, no? So those are mega projects that we call. So kung mega projects ito, you will think that it is already part of the operations. Parang hindi na siya, you will assume that it is not yet a project. But actually, it's still considered project because hindi pa natin siya natetest, hindi pa natin nakikita na functioning. We are still developing the foundations. So those things are called projects. Ang hindi lang projects are, these are examples of some events, no? If the events is regularly done yearly like General Assembly, hindi siya considered project. What is, kumbaga, ano yung unique trait ng projects compared to our activities? So later malaman natin, but probably you will think of General Assembly as a project para sa cooperative. Maybe you will also think of some onboarding programs as part of a project, but those are not really considered projects. Okay, because there's a determinant to call the activities as a project. Okay, so what are common to these projects? Ano ba yung determinant that I've mentioned para masabi mo siya na project? So one is specific and unique yung product or services. first time nyong magiging involved in the development of this service o di naman kaya ng mga produkto, no? So if it's business planning for a new kind of loan product, then kung bago pa lang yan, it's not being done by the other units or other departments, you can consider it a project. But it should be temporary. The person or the people you assigned here may be on a contract basis. Hindi sila regular employees, or they may be regular employees, but the assignment is temporary. So dapat yung characteristic ng activities or ng program, there is a definite start and definite finish. Meron kang target start and target finish. And there's also a likelihood na when you've done or when you go through the project, maaring one time lang ito. Hindi siya magiging part ng operations. Hindi siya magta-transition into the operations. But there are some projects, because of the impact, nangyayari, nagkakaroon ng phase 2. But that happens after the implementation of the prototyping. So minsan yung prototyping, we usually use it when we're starting some activities. For example, sa cooperatives, when you are trying to centralize the finance and the HR services, kasi di ba other co-ops, they have it distributed eh. Parang they have an assigned HR on specific branch, no? Yung kanilang branch, one will have their HR assistant, and then meron din silang accountant, and then meron din silang bookkeeper on that branch. But if you would want to centralize the finance activities, then all of the financial activities are in the head office. Kung meron ka mang people dispatched on the branch offices, they are reporting to the head office and not to the branch manager. So when you would like to centralize it, hindi mo kagad gagawin na across all branches. You try to come out with a test run for branch A, branch B, and then if naging successful yung ating mga activities in branch A and branch B as the prototype, then that's the time that we repeat it and then bring it to other branches, no? And in prototyping, we usually consider asan yung may less risk kapag in-implement natin, no? So yung lesser risk, maybe OIC can actually relate, no? Can actually relate to the centralization of the finance activities kasi they did this already. And we had 2 branch prototypes before we roll it to other branches. And okay, so another trait or another distinction in project management or in project is that they require multidisciplinary coordination. So maganda yung ating composition of participants right now kasi we have here some branch managers, you have HR, and then others are actually in the sales and marketing, and meron din tayo sa membership, no? Sa marketing and membership maintenance. Meron din tayong nasa community and social development. So kung titignan natin yung mga trabaho natin, most likely iba yung mga project that we are engaged with. Lalo na yung sa community development, most likely some of your activities starts as temporary events or temporary activities to educate your members, and then later on, if you see the impact is good, then that's the time you regularize the activities. Yan. Sa chat box, Ma'am Mabel shared the coterminus when it comes to the contract, no, ng ating mga employees. So yung project-based na contract for employees, it's coterminous with the project. Kasabay siya ng project. Pwede mo siyang i-extend, but you need to draft another contract for the extension of those employees. Okay, so another is when it's multidisciplinary, no, na coordination, you also have to think of the project lead. Sino yung magiging head sa project lead, sa project natin? Otherwise, kapag ka maraming leaders, mahirap i-centralize yung mga meetings and then the outputs and monitoring of the activities. Though it's multidisciplinary, there should always be a project lead. And take note, if it's a project, you are always after the time, no? Parang hindi ka pwedeng ma-delay sobra, or sabihin natin maganda yung mas maaga na matapos, pero hindi naman pwedeng minadali mo, pero yung quality ng output would be kumbaga mahina, no? Hindi ganun kaganda, because it has implication on the cost. If you have enough money resources, then you can speed up the project delivery by hiring more professional people na you think doesn't need to be thought on the project implementation. Pero kadalasan na na-experience natin sa co-op, dahil limited ang budget natin, yung learning phase ng mga involved sa implementation nakakasama pa doon sa delivery or doon sa time and scope ng ating mga projects. Kasi the cost, if it's limited, it extends the time, no? But also, if there are no available resources related to our project, we need to network and look out, no? So si Ma'am Gina, who's a procurement, minsan you will have to really look at different sources. You might go out of the local community, no, natin, or local market, maaring outsource or kumuha tayo, no, mag-procure tayo outside the Philippines, no. So kapag ganun yung mga requirements ng project natin, you will need to really make sure that the scope are well planned, giving you enough buffer time para doon sa implementation ng ating project. So if all of these are present in our activities and events na pinaplan natin, then we can say that the character of that activities can be called a project, no? Kasi baka minsan we call it a project, but it's not really a project. So there are different definitions. I give you all the traits or the character of a project. And as you will look at the definition provided to us by Harvard Business Review and Project Management Institute, it's very common pagdating dito sa uniqueness, no? Set of activities, tapos yung production of a defined outcome, and yung time frame, no? And allocation of the resources. So makikita mo kaagad present itong mga ito. So at the same, looking at the definition of PMI, nandito rin yung word na temporary, no? Almost the same with what I mentioned earlier, and uniqueness of the product or the services, no? So present siya sa mga definition. So kapag ka hindi unique, it's been a regular activity for us, then you cannot consider it as a project. No, you don't call that project. Let me check your chat. Okay. Okay. Ayan. So, this is not a project. No, yung mga like application ng ating mga members, that's not a project because it's already an integral part of the operations ng frontliners natin sa mga branches natin. The production, no, ng mga products kapag ka manufacturing, and yung like this one, this is a manufacturing production or systems. Kapag nag-invest na tayo on equipments for the production, then it will be a regular part of the operation. So that is not considered a project anymore. Now, bakit natin isinasama ito, no, sa ating ipe-present when we do some training, because we need our people to understand, kung sino man yung mga participants natin, to understand why we call it a project, what is the character of the project, and then what are the different processes and objectives of the project. Kasi nga, specific outcome, and then yung mga resources are specific. So, if it's not unique, if it's done continuously, then there's always a way of finding other resources. Pero if you are limited by time, no, and meron siyang time frame and project scope, tendency is kailangan magawa siya on the specific time na yon. So unlike nung mga activities natin that already part of the operations, mas na-stretch natin yung time, and then we can always find way on getting the financial resources. So we defined what is a project already. Usually, to simplify it, it's what are the goal of the activities or the event, and then what are the three objectives, which is the scope, time, and budget. So ito yung three bottom lines na tinatawag. And then we will expand on this, yung scope, the time, and budget. Pareho naman, ma'am, yung scope and time eh. No, it's different because the scope actually mention about the stakeholders, yung mga magtatrabaho on the project, and what would be the extent, sino yung maaapektuhan ng mga project natin, no? But time is on the schedules, specific to the schedules of the deliverables, and then budget is specific to the money resource that we infuse on the project, okay? So what is this established organization? It's either our co-op will be in charge of the project, or we assign a specific department to handle the project. Now, meron tayong mga IT department, no? Kung halimbawa, software development, at the beginning of the software, most likely, it can be considered as a project. But if it's developed and implemented na, then it will be part of the operations. But the beginning can be considered as budget. Okay, so the three project objectives, as I mentioned, is scope, time, and budget. Now, if you look into the scope, time, and budget, sometimes you will have to prioritize kung ano yung gusto mong bigyan ng emphasis. Gusto mo bang matapos agad? So you look into the time, or do you want to have a project run on a minimum budget? Or kapag malaki naman yung iyong budget, may nakuha kang donor for your project, let's say federation donated certain amount to you, then you utilize that budget to speed up on that time. And then others would look into the scope. Who are the employees working for the project? Maybe I can hire experts, or maybe if not, yung mga beginners lang muna na would like to test their knowledge and skills after they graduate on the project implementation. But with that, you always have to include some experts in the project. Otherwise, pag lahat beginners, hindi natin ma-ensure yung completion of the project. Okay, so when you do some prioritization, mag-change ngayon yung what we call the diagram, the triangle diagram. So if we have so much time in our hands, syempre, you will have this look, no? And sometimes if it's too much time, tendency you are limited with budget, you are either limited with the scope. So just a visual representation of the relationship of these three. Kapag may nawala na isa among this, then you cannot say that it's a good objective, no? You always have to consider these three objectives for the project. Okay, so in project planning, this is actually a tool that you can use to determine where you will place yung emphasis, no? You can just identify, let's say, if you have looked into a project and you think na you are constrained by time, then you just cross it on the table for your prioritization, no? So But if you cross out the time, then look at the table, where can you maximize, no? Yung ano yung pwede mong i-identify na doon na lang natin i-maximize, doon natin ibuhos yung ating mga resources. Could be the scope, you can optimize on the scope. You can engage everybody in the co-op para tulong-tulong dito sa proyekto na to para maging ano siya, successful. Siguro para mas madali nating maintindihan. Let's say you would want to have an elevator in your 4-story building. No? So if you would want to have an elevator in your 4-story building na walang elevator kundi stairs lang, then of course you will need enough budget for that, right? But if you don't have enough budget, okay, we can compromise the budget. We can look at the resources that we have, the employee resources or workforce resources. Do we have engineers inside our co-op? Do we have architects? Kung wala tayong engineers or architects, let us look at our members, no? Baka they can volunteer as architects and engineers for the building of the elevator. So dito ka ngayon mag-focus kung ano-ano yung pwede mong maging paghuhugutan ng workforce. Now, you want to accomplish it immediately, mabilis lang kaagad kasi kaya natin gusto ng elevator, hindi kaya ng ating mga seniors na umakyat doon sa building. Lalo na pagka sa 4th floor, tapos nandoon yung releasing ng mga benefits of our members. Then it will be difficult for them. Bilisan natin para naman makater natin yung mga seniors. So you now actually have a constrained time, kaya you have to optimize the scope and your resources, no? And then with budget, you can compromise it. So this will guide you or help you in determining kung ano yung gusto mong i-prioritize. Okay, for example, let's look here. Digitization of credit application. Okay, so sige, let's utilize our chat box. Para tingnan ko lang kung nakaka-follow tayo or if you understand what is this table about, no? Para sa prioritization. Okay, so why do we need to digitize? No, bulol eh. Why do we need to digitize our credit application? What is our environment right now? Okay, so isa-isay natin. Let's go with scope, okay? Is it constrained, optimized, or compromised? Sino ba ang tina-target natin? Anyone? Maybe you can type in the chat box. Sino bang tina-target natin in digitizing our credit application? Members? Members to be, no? To serve our members or members to be? Okay? Yes. So, what do you think? We want to actually maximize the technology. Okay? Expansion of the members. Very good. Okay, so for efficiency. Okay? Yes, for efficiency. So with scope, concerning scope, do you think we need to maximize our scope or will we start with the Gen Y or the millennials first? What do you think? So probably we can compromise initially the scope. Simulan muna natin doon sa mga may knowledge. Tapos saka na natin sila schedule with let's say yung mga seniors, mga baby boomers. Let us just kumbaga schedule them after the initial phase of the project. So i-compromise muna natin. Simulan lang muna natin sa mga juniors para ma-test natin yung online application. But what do we need, what do we expect from the time to produce it? Since we're just prototyping, di ba medyo constrained tayo with time because there are a lot of co-ops already using online accreditation. Ayan, nawawala ang aking mouse. Ayan. Nawala ang mouse. Okay, so supposed to be on the time. Just imagine that the constraint is on the time, no? Ayan, nawawala ang mouse. Ayan, please Chin, thank you. Naghahang ang aking computer. Okay, mark mo rin Chin yung compromise for the scope. Okay. And then most likely, if we have budget, hindi naman malaki yung ating target for the budget kasi hindi naman software yung ide-develop natin. But we have actually yung mga FB or socials, we can optimize yung sa budget natin. Maybe subscription, yan. Okay? Or pwedeng mag-change ito depending on your decisions, depending on your priorities. Okay? So, I have to escape the presentation.
Sige po, habang nag-skip si Ma'am Roso sa ating presentation, commercial lang po para doon sa mga humabol or nagpalit ng ating participant, kindly sagot po yung ating registration para doon po maipadala yung first invitation doon sa tamang tao na participant po natin ngayon at hindi doon sa dating na nag-register. So sa mga iba po, kindly sa mga parang new or parang palit participant, kindly register po using this link po para yung name niyo at email address po and also your contact number, yun po yung nasa ating listahan po. Salamat.
Ayan, gumalaw na siya, no? Okay, this PowerPoint we will be sharing to you as well. Okay, ayaw. What's happening to my internet? Okay. So this PowerPoint we will be sharing to you as well. May mga scripts na ito or notes that you can follow as well, no? So i-share namin siya not as PDF but as PowerPoint per se para you can revise this tool. Okay, so let's give another example. Wedding, yan. Lahat ng mga babaeng magpapakasal. Maybe wedding is just one time, right? So if it's one time ang wedding, then we can consider this as a personal project for us. So when we would want to have like a wedding event, or let's say you would like to have a grand wedding, pero let's say it's already shortened, yung time natin, we are constrained in time, what we can do is we optimize on the scope of our wedding, no? So by optimizing the scope, we tap all our friends, all our networks to get involved in the preparations. Otherwise, you will actually I have one staff who actually resigned before na siya halos ang nag-asikaso nung sa wedding niya. She resigned because she has to focus on the wedding. So you can optimize the scope by tapping all your networks or relatives who can help you to prepare for it. Kasi time constraint ka na, you need more people on it. And then you can compromise on the budget, okay? If it's shortened kasi yung time, tendency is kung ano yung existing mo in your wallet or in your pocket, yun lang yung meron ka para ma-utilize to move on the preparations for the wedding. So we can equate the wedding with general assemblies. Diba, when we do general assemblies, others do it na January pa lang, they are already preparing for the general assemblies. But there are some new co-ops na first time pa lang nila magkakaroon ng general assembly, and we also experienced before during the pandemic, ang general assembly natin is done on online. So later na lang na-realize na yung mga general assemblies pala ay pwede nang gamitin or gawin online. Kaya nagmamadali tayo. So most likely we'll have this kind of prioritization, no? So we might be constrained in time, we need to optimize our workforce or yung mga resources that we have. We have internet naman, we have laptops, we have projectors, we can bring the projectors in the venue, maaring sa court, tapos yung mga monoblocks dalhin natin sa court din, mag-social distancing, no? I-optimize natin lahat ng what we already have as resources, no? And then with regards to the budget, we can compromise the budget. Maybe we can prioritize the budget for the gifts para sa ating mga members. So these are the way, or this is how we prioritize our 3 bottom lines. Okay. Okay, so this is another example. It's more of a production. When we go through a production of new products, sometimes we look for warehouses. Tapos we look into the process, no? Yung how do you produce yung ating mga produkto, and then we look into our budget. Okay, some others would like to look for donors, ganyan. But others would have their own resources, investment coming from the interest or the income of their cooperatives. Okay, so you might come out with these examples of prioritization, wherein yung scope mo, since you are new with, let's say, juice production, wala ka pang masyadong information on how to market or produce in the market, kaya magkakaroon ka ng constraint pagdating sa scope. So, but you can optimize time kasi you will do some researches. Okay, so maaring yung business development officer mo will be deployed on observe, parang lakbay-aral, observe how to manufacture juices, no? Yung mga cold compressed juices. And then the budget, we can compromise. We can use what is in our hands. Okay, so you can do the same then for your project planning. Okay, so we talk a lot about the scope. Part ng project planning yung organization, yung stakeholders natin. So when you look at the stakeholders, baka mamaya ang scope or ang ating vision of our stakeholders are just limited with the employees. Members are also part of the stakeholders, yung mga recipients ng ating mga project, and then other workers like your partners, yung mga nagdo-donate ng mga fund for us, no? So others would be volunteers. They can be considered as project stakeholders. So when we go through our stakeholders, we need to have a complete understanding. Sino ba yung iba't ibang taong involved in our project? Okay? So you can ask this question, who will be doing the work? You cannot have a project na parang assignment lang siya, na yung isang employee, bibigyan mo ng assignment, but hindi mo siya tatanggalan ng other activities. Tendency is, pag nag-multitasking, later makikita nyo, pag nag-multitasking yung employee, na-stretch yung time. Hindi niya nabibigyan ng focus yung project. So if you are going to come out with a project, you must be sure that there's somebody who will own the project, who will own the program, no? And not only that, kasi maaring you already have a person in charge of the project, like a BOD. O sige, ikaw ang i-assign ko, i-oversee mo yung project. Iba ang BOD sa project manager. So who is the project manager? When you say project manager, dapat meron siyang understanding of the process. Alam niyang mag-manage ng tao, alam niya yung process, alam niya yung systems, alam niya yung equipment, and then alam niya yung scope or yung schedules then ng project, how it will run. Okay? So the owner of the project should be different from the project manager. Why? Because the owner of the project actually communicates with the investors or probably sino man yung nagpo-provide ng capital, yung mga approvers, no? Siya yung magko-communicate doon. The project manager should focus on the implementation and execution of the project. Kapag magkasama pa sila, para siya ngayong magja-juggle ng responsibilities. Nag-o-oversee na siya at nagmo-monitor ng project so that it can be communicated to the capital providers. Then at the same time, magmamanage pa siya ng people down the line. No? So dapat paghiwalayin mo yung iyong project owner at saka yung iyong project manager. Okay? Now, I've mentioned about the group of people who will approve the capital. So you may now ask, who is paying for the project? Okay, so later on, we need to deal with the provider of the capital who is paying for the project. We need to inform them constantly of the activities and progress of our project by documenting the activities, by submitting reports, probably monthly reports or quarterly reports. Kaya natin sila i-inform so that they will know if there's progress in their investment. Okay? And part also of that report is who will consume the product or services. Okay? So minsan kasi during the project execution, no, like we test run the project, you need to understand the impact of the project to those who will be benefiting from it. Sino yung magko-consume ng mga produkto? If you have a complete understanding of those people who will consume the project, then you have a clearer picture of your output or outcome. No? So, who is our final customer? Okay? And then the final question you need to ask is, who are those affected by the project? Sabihin natin, hindi ba pareho lang yan ng customer? No, it's not, because ang customer are the consumers, no? Or they like yung sa service natin, our members will be the recipient of our activities. If it's a program or if it's an educational program, they are the recipient. But those who are affected, you may include here like sa procurement, sino yung nagde-deliver ng mga requirements mo. Like bond paper, kung para sa mga forms yan, or let's say, if it's a wedding, yung flower na nagpo-provide, no? And then, it could be the community, maaaring affected din yung mga community, no? Or probably, it's the general public then, no? After you produce the product, dapat na-conscious din tayo, what's the climate impact, no? On our environment of our project. Baka pag ang ginamit nating packaging, if it's for a product, ay plastic, then makakadagdag yon sa kalat, di ba? Pwede mo ring i-consider yon, no? Or otherwise, you can also look into if it's an education or a training program or an event, sino yung kapitbahay nung iyong gagawing meetings or event. Baka mamaya meron dito sa mga kapitbahay na kapag ka naiingayan, may sakit pala na nakaka-cause ng stress. So even the environment where you are going to run the project, you need to look into this, no? So these are the things, these are the stakeholders that will dictate the outcome of your project. At the end of the project, sila yung mga dapat nating tinitingnan. Okay? So yung guide question natin yon, this composes the organization of stakeholders. Okay, so this is another framework. I always add the references para you can look at more to the materials available online. No, this is by Cleland and King, 1988 pa, but it still applies para sa project natin. Okay, so this is what we call stakeholder cycles. So there are different steps in our stakeholder cycles. You begin with identifying yung ating mga involved people in the project, from the customers, from the workers, from those who will be affected. No? So when you do that, kapag ka na-list mo na lahat ng mga stakeholders, you need to gather information. So this is what we call profiling. Okay, so you will profile now all the stakeholders. Okay, so if they are producers, how fast do they give how fast do they deliver yung mga products na bibilhin mo sa kanila. Why do you need to look into this? Kasi isasama mo siya sa scheduling mo when you do the schedules for every activities. For example, building yan. Gusto mo, sisimulan mo sa mohon, no? Yung sa foundation. Pag sisimulan mo sa foundation, how many days do you need to procure the steel, the cement, okay, and the sand, no? Gaano kabilis yun para masimulan mo yung next activities, which is building the foundations. So gather as much information for our stakeholders. Then identify the role of the stakeholders, no? Ano yung kanilang mission in your project? Of course, for our workers, for the execution, they need to meet the scope of the project, yung target date of delivery, the operations and systems, no, the execution. The customers, most likely the customers is their mission is appreciation of the product, of the end product, and consumption, no. So your target is for them to patronize your product, but you also need their feedback, no, the customers. So sometimes we limit muna yung customers natin. We invite people to test kapag ka mga products yan, and then we ask for feedback coming from them. So they might not be aware of their mission in the success of the project, but you also assign some activities for them. For example, in prototyping ng ng mga business plans natin or ng ating mga training programs, by the end of the program, we ask for evaluation, right? And from the evaluation, tinitignan natin ngayon what worked and what did not work. So unknowingly, yung mga participants natin were already performing their mission by giving us feedback on the effectiveness and effectiveness of the program and efficiency of the speakers kung training siya, no? So kung workers naman, effectiveness and efficiency of the person who's serving us. So determine the strengths and weaknesses of the different stakeholders. Wow, kailangan mo rin palang mag-SWOT analysis sa mga stakeholders natin. Okay, example, kung ang stakeholder na na-identify natin is the approver of the program's capital, yung nag-a-approve, no? So ano ang strength nun? The strength is, since the capital is coming from them, may say sila on the project, diba? Yun yung strength nila. But ang weakness nila is that they cannot interfere with the activities or the execution of the project. Kailangan kailangan inform sila para wag silang mag-micromanagement at bumaba sa project. So that's one way to manage our approvers, no? So let's say sa execution naman, the workers, ano ang strength nila? So sila yung may know-how, sila yung alam kung paano i-accomplish yung project. Pero ang limit nila is they are not the capital provider, no? Hindi sa kanila nanggagaling. They are not the approvers of the capital or the release of the budget. So kapag ka ganon, pag may need sila in the implementation and execution of the project, tendency is they will have to wait for the budget to be approved or to be released, no? So yun yung weakness nila. They don't have the authority with regards to the resources. So that will stretch the time, no? Para sila maging effective in performing their mission as workers. So try to determine this. Ito ang hindi natin ginagawa sa project management ng ating mga project activities. Kadalasan ito yung nami-miss. But if you miss on the stakeholders profiling, ang nangyayari is may mga nami-miss tayo, may mga nawawalang information para maging effective tayo sa project natin. Kapag kami mga missed information tayo or mga missed or hits na tinatawag, nakakadagdag yon sa cost ng ating projects. Nakakadagdag siya sa time na ating implementation. Imbis na mapabilis, lalo tayong tumatagal kasi may mga unidentified risk tayo from our stakeholders. So, another thing, nag-SWOT ka na, you try to understand your stakeholders, you still also need to understand yung behavior nila. Okay, so are they concerned with the project? Minsan meron tayong like, this is my personal experience. For example, I'm trying to develop an LMS program. Ngayon kasi ang mga learning natin, dapat may kasabay tayo na online materials. For reasons that we have Gen Z and Gen Y na mga kumbaga workers, or the population right now are increasing. They're entering the workforce, no? So, and this is the trend in terms of learning and development. So dapat meron na rin tayo ng mga programs na ganito. However, pagdating sa mga approvers, ang tendency, once you've completed the modules or the program, you will submit it to them for them to appreciate kung ano yung natapos mo. Pero it will take time, no? You will need to constantly inform them to please review. Minsan, you need to sit down with them just to review the content of the programs. If you cannot go through that, minsan you're hesitant to really publish the module or the training program. Hindi mo siya agad-agad i-offer. Kasi later on, you will be questioned, no? You will be questioned with the validity of the program. O bakit yan ang ginawa mo? Bakit hindi ito ang ginawa mo? In the first place, you've already informed them of the objectives, but you need to constantly remind them of the objectives of the program that you do. Okay, so kapag ka ang behavior ng iyong nasa project owners ay ganito, then there's a lot of effort for you as a project manager or project implementer. No? So yun yung implications. That's why we need to predict the stakeholders' behavior so that you can include in your scope or in your project plan yung pagdating doon sa evaluation by the stakeholders, evaluation by the project leads, o kaya naman evaluation by the recipients of the project. So another step is implementing stakeholders management strategy. So there's a lot of strategy that we've mentioned already. Like naging example na nga natin is how will you inform the owners of the project or yung mga nasa officers natin who approves the budget? Sino ang dapat na nag-i-inform? Ano yung mga dapat na nakikita nila na i-reports from the project? Okay, so you need to strategize because if you just have one strategy, let's say on informing them, what if the behavior of your let's say yung ano natin, yung nasa capital holder natin is that parang hindi nila ine-embrace yung project mo. So what would be your strategy to constantly bring it up to them? So think about your style in informing our stakeholders. Okay, so another example to be, kasi yung medyo yung mga examples ko are what I have before or what I had before. Para siguro mas maging clear na example, let's look into the product ng isang, let's say, Lumi Juice plant, no? Ng isang co-op, a project of a co-op that would be, kumbaga, let's say they are an agriculture cooperative. So may mga members sila who produces vegetables or fruits. Okay, tapos ikaw as a co-op would want to invest on having a juice plant para ikaw nang magpo-purchase ng mga produce ng mga farmers natin. So let's go through this framework, okay, and then identify ano yung mga possible nating gawin, no? So in the juice plant like this one, di ba, ang ating end product or objective is to put into the shelf and make the products available, no, sa ating mga consumers. Now, to gather information is you look into your producers, how are they affected by the weather, no, yung kanilang production of the materials or the fruits and the juices. Now, you also have to look into your let's say, the engineers or the constructor ng plant mo naman. Okay, so yung mga expenses of their, let's say, their salaries, no? Will it be within the budget? So you gather as much as information as you can. Now, pwedeng meron ka namang isang team doing the research on the production of the juice. Maganda ba ang cold press o pag sinabing cold press, hindi mo lulutuin, no? O mas madali kung lulutuin na lang yung mga fruits to get yung mga juices. So what technology will you employ? So paano naman yung sa taste ng juices, no? So when you look into the taste, kailangan acceptable to the consumers na target mo. So would you also want to determine kung ano yung health benefit ng juice? Pagka kasi cold press, hindi naluluto yung fruits, kaya mas marami siyang benefits pagdating dun sa juice product natin. But if you cook it, tendency is some of the nutrients are burned as well, no? So you also have to look into the policies or the government policies ng ating pagdating sa food, no? Meron tayong FDA, no? Tinitingnan natin kung papasabayan. Okay, so once na yung product natin pumasa, then it's safe. You can release it to the market. Now, determine the strength and weaknesses ng iyong na-research when you put together all your researches and then you started running or started producing the juices, then you try to test it and offer it to the public. Ano ngayon yung nag-work for you and what did not work. From there, it could be on the end of the producers, medyo may challenges sila pagdating sa kanilang harvest because of the weather. So how can you address that naman? Saan ka kukuha ngayon ng other produce? Para naman on time ka rin on your production. Then, look into your strategy, no, on how you also communicate with all the different stakeholders. So lastly then would be the passing of the what we require, yung certification, so that you can put it into the shelves. Okay, so these are just some examples kung production ang ating magiging activities. Okay, so meron tayong tinatawag na tool na which we call stakeholder power or interest grid. Kasi kanina, yung ginamit naman natin sa 3 bottom lines, it's a matrix. But this one, it's more of a stakeholders interest grid. Di ba we have to identify the interest of our stakeholders. We have to identify their behaviors. So you can be guided by this matrix, yung high power, low power. When you say high power and low power, they have a strong influence on the project success and then on the implementation and execution. O low interest and high interest, are they, kumbaga, meron ba silang involvement and ownership of the project? If let's say, parang they just give the capital and they don't feel the need to constantly check on the project, then that could be low interest. Maaring high interest, minsan naman, those who actually gave us the capital, talagang sila yung laging nakatingin sa atin, no? Naka-monitor doon sa ating execution. So maaaring nasa high interest. So by following this grid, ang tendency is you can now think of the strategy that you will use para doon sa pag-manage mo ng stakeholders. So kapag ka pala low interest and low power, ito yung mga customers, most likely the customers or the members, they are sometimes, pero high interest ang members natin, no? Just for example lang, merong mga members na hindi concerned with what the co-op is doing, no? Sabihin na natin low interest and low power. Then, ang kailangan is you have a person monitoring them, no? Chine-check yung kaniyang Ano ba yan? Members in good standing ba yan? Ganyan, no? So na may nagmo-monitor. Okay? But if let's say low power, usually the employees, yung mga workers natin, and then they have high interest, no? Why do they have high interest? Kasi sila yung nagtatrabaho para dito. So ano ang strategy mo as project manager? You keep on informing them. You keep on giving them instructions, no? Laging may mga information, may instructions, lagi kang may communication plan, progress report, no? You do some daily progress report. Maaaring meron ka pa ring toolbox meeting, no? Because you are dealing with workers. So they need to keep informed since they have investments in terms of the success of the project. But let's say you have a person or stakeholders na low interest pero high power. Ito na nga yung mga nasa sa co-op natin, the board of directors and sometimes yung mga donors din, yung mga nagbigay sa atin ng capitals, no? So, what is our strategy? Dapat we need to keep them satisfied. So now you ask, what will keep them satisfied? Of course, on time ka pagdating sa schedule of the execution and within the budget, no? Ayan. So you keep them satisfied. Lalo na if they are high powered tapos they are really interested and concerned about your project, no? You manage them closely. So you don't just keep them satisfied, you also constantly give them information. They are not left unaware kung ano yung nangyayari sa project, no? So, kung project manager ka, tendency is you wear different hats when you deal with the different stakeholders. Any questions so far?
Hi, Ma'am Rose. Kanina po si Miss Mabel is raising her hand.
Yes,
Miss
please go
Mabel.
ahead.
Hello, Ma'am Rose.
Yes, Ma'am Mabel. Hello.
Everyone. Opo. Medyo malayo na kasi. Going back to doon sa 3 bottom lines that you shared, gusto ko lang pong malaman kung ano ba yung determinants or like, is there like something that you need to know for you to be able to identify if it's a constraints, if you're addressing a constraints, if you're targeting or addressing the optimization, yung parang ganyan po. Parang madali ma'am i-identify yung time and budget eh. But the scope, ano ba yung key indicators? Do we have that kind of parang something that we need to look into para malaman namin, we will be addressing the constraints. This would fall under constraints. Like yung first example niyo po is digitization. Tapos we mentioned that the scope is what is that? I forgot already. Medyo malayo na. So nag-fall under that category, ma'am. Bakit na sinasabi na magpa-fall siya under that category, not under optimization and not under the other one?
Okay, thank you, Miss Mabel. Okay, sige. Let's go back to this slide. Di ba, time, budget, and scope. Usually, what are included sa scope are yung mga workers mo, the workforce, process and systems, knowledge level ng mga workers mo. Yun yung mga scope kadalasan. Then, if let's say, ang naging example natin is the credit application. Usually, we need somebody in the team na may knowledge on how to utilize or what is the social media well used by our members, na familiar yung mga members natin. So, but if you don't have any information about the about the members' preferences na social media, then you will have to actually put somebody to do the research. So you might want to prioritize them at the beginning of the project planning. Kasi you still don't have it in your team. So you might want to prioritize them. But kung ibabangga mo naman siya on the time that you have, probably because gusto nga natin is soon, then you say that the time is constrained. or pwede nating sabihin na yung constraint natin is kung ano yung talagang we don't have control over these factors. So, yun yung mga constraints. Pagka halimbawa, we have all what we need, the knowledge, the information and data, we can actually identify that as kumbaga available and strength resources na natin. So, yung strength natin can be compromised, no? Can always be compromised kasi it's present already in us, nasa atin na siya. So, when we go to the table, no, medyo di ko alam kung medyo clear yung explanation ko o magulo ulit. So, pagka-constraint kasi, that is factors, yung kumbaga meron kang problem or challenges in the project na hindi mo controlled. There's somebody else who have a bigger control over it. Like time kadalasan. O di naman, constrained tayo sa budget. Yan, we usually are constrained with budget if we don't have this. But we can always compromise budget kasi budget can be sourced out, maaring hindi internally, but sa labas. So there's options. There's options. But if you don't have options, then you tell, you say that it's a constraint for you if you don't have options. But if you have options, it's compromise. You can always tick the box of compromise. Optimize is if you have all the resources and this is your strength, may resources ka, may knowledge ka, may know-how ka, nandyan na sa'yo, then like the scope, you can optimize it. Or let's say you have enough time kasi matagal pa naman to eh. Then you can tick the box of that time. Or if you have enough capital, then you can tick the box of budget. Ayan. Was I able to answer the question, Ma'am Mabel?
Ma'am, last pa, sorry ha sa Ma'am Rose.
Okay lang, sure.
Gusto ko talagang matuto kasi you know, in our group, we do have experience also in handling a project, both internal and also yung funded projects or initiated. Ma'am, kanina po na-mention nyo, there's a micro and macro. Natanong ko po, how can we determine if we say micro, are there standard in terms of project cost, outreach, or even the project impact or outcome?
Okay.
With macro, meron bang ganyan po na written standard that you can say that this is a macro project already because the project cost would be this much, or the project impact will be this, yung scope like that po?
Okay. Sa ibang field, there are standards para masabi nating micro or macro. But in the service sector, minsan medyo mahirap i-determine yung micro and macro. We can say that it's micro if it's localized and then you have all the resources within your reach. Kumbaga micro siya, and then the beneficiaries or the impact of it would not really get out of the community, no? But we can say that it's macro if there's a lot of involved stakeholders, there's a lot of involved na kumbaga resources, lalo na kapag halimbawa you can say it's macro if the impact would affect not only those members of your cooperative, but outside of your cooperative. Sabihin na natin na micro kapag halimbawa na yung community mo lang maapektuhan. But it will be macro if it's like international and national. Hindi lang siya limited within the scope of your community kung saan nag-exist yung ating mga services. So kung if it's a co-op. Now, yung sa iyo kasi Ma'am Mabel, if like sa GAD, no, sa GAD is more of yung kung development and learning and development ang pag-uusapan. We are talking about the females and then the compositions of the males and females within the cooperative, like the balance of the gender within the cooperative. If we are talking of one specific factor, like yun nga, balance lang ang titignan natin, we can say that is micro. But if you are looking at several areas, like yung pagkaka-implement niya in the cooperative office, meron bang CR for the females, CR for the males, CR for the other genders na preference nila ay iba, LGBTB, tama ba yun? Then,
LGBTQIA++.
Yan. Basta yung nag-start sa L. Pagka halimbawa, yan, tinignan mo, and then titignan mo yung content ng policy, then how is it stated, and then kasama din sa programs, ano yung programs mo specific to this, then maybe that would be considered macro. There are already several output that you want to accomplish under one specific umbrella. Then that's already a macro. Lalo na if you will roll it not only to one cooperative. We have 800 plus members co-op. So if you want to roll that to all of these cooperatives, tapos ang deadline mo is within 3 years, may scope tayo. Remember, there's always this time na kasama. If it's within 3 years, you want to accomplish 800, macro na yan. I would consider it a macro.
Okay po. So yun nga, we have to really look into also the outreach and the outcome, no? Then it's on our own assessment and judgment also. We're in siguro sa initial stage ng planning ng project that this is a micro. We're addressing a micro. Parang inisip ko lang po, are we addressing a micro issue but the implementation is much more wider? I don't know, Ma'am Rosa, kasi nabanggit niyo po yung GAG. So we would want the cooperatives to be gender sensitized. So that could be a very micro issue, but the implementation in terms of the scope or outreach is macro, because we would want to do it in the entire membership of NATCO. Parang ganyan, ma'am. Parang
yes.
Yun lang po yung medyo assessment, but at least now, ma'am, medyo I understand na po. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you then, Ms. Mabel, for asking, kasi somehow we're able to share then yung idea about the scoping, the prioritization, paano nga natin sila i-categorize. So thank you for asking, Ms. Mabel.
Ma'am Rose, nagtataas din ng kamay kanina si Sir Jovit.
Okay, go ahead, Sir Jovit.
Good morning, ma'am. May dadagdag lang ako, just a
Okay,
short
go
comment
ahead
lang
po.
regarding
Sure
sa
po.
prioritization. Kasi kanina nabanggit niya, I think it was Mas Mabel yata yun, na tinatanong niya, paano ba natin sasabihin na constraint, optimize, compromise, regarding the scope, time, and budget. Based on my experience kasi, yung iba, even sa private, ganito rin, sa co-op halos pareho lang. Pag nagko-conceptualize sila ng project, kaagad-agad may budget, kaagad na sinasabi. So kumbaga mostly, yung budget, yun ang nagiging primary constraint. So ang nangyayari, yung scope at saka time, pinatatamaan lang niya yung project. So ang nangyayari, nakukompromise yung scope, nakukompromise yung time, para matamaan lang yung budget. So ang nagiging resulta, hindi na siya responsive doon sa pinaka-objective. Yun ang nakikita ko, which is supposedly yung budget, dependent siya doon sa scope, sa time. No? So, kasi yung iba naman, like for example, if you have the internal organization pero I think yung scope talaga, mukhang mahirap i-compromise yun kasi yun ang pinakalaman nung project And yun ang nakikita ko based on my experience. I think yung ganun din yata sa mga cooperatives. Sasabihin, okay, ito yung budget ninyo. Gumawa kayo ng project study or what, ganito. So ngayon, nangyayari, may mga areas na nami-miss out, na which is important yun. Okay. Pangalawa, may dagdag lang ako regarding doon sa power. Kumbaga, sino yung mas powerful pag may project? Basically, yung cooperative naman natin, lahat ng project natin should address the need of the members. Kasi yung si members yung pinaka-ano natin pinaka-core market, pinaka-primary market natin. But there are instances na kaya nakukompromise na rin yung project, hindi napapatronize ng members kasi hindi na powerful yung members. Hindi may mga iba, I don't know nangyayari ba sa ibang mga co-op, hindi na research based, ibig sabihin hindi na sila nagtatanong sa members, magpapatronize ba kayo nito? Just like sa private, nagma-market research kami. So yun ang nakikita ko kasi minsan yung either officers of the cooperative yung nagsasabi or yung governance. So yun lang nakikita ko na minsan dapat bigyan natin pansin yung sa yung power ng mga members. Yun lang po.
Thank you very much po, Sir Jovi. Ayan, maganda yung shinare ni Sir, no? So, bigla ring nag-light up sa mind ko yung scope na ko-compromise kapag ka-limited yung budget. Ang kadalasan na nasa-sacrifice din dito, yung employee mismo, yung hiring of the employee who will be working on the project. Mag-hire ka na lang ng mura na salary. Subukan mo mag-ano ka na lang, kumuha ka na lang ng new graduates. Pero you want to speed up the project, you want to deliver the project, you need somebody na skilled, no? So
Ma'am, pero po, the ideal framework is that when you are starting a project, you have to identifying the problem, what needs to be addressed, what needs to be, di ba po, kasi that would start the objective. Pero meron palang instances that yung na-share nga ni Sir that we can somehow start with the budget because you can just work on your budget for you to be able to address yung mga issues and problems na na-experience mo within the cooperative. Parang ganun po ba? Pero the ideal one is you start with identifying the problem and then parang categorize as to ano yung first priority that you need to address, parang ganyan. Pero ngayon narinig ko kay Sir, yung iba they work on the budget. Parang nalilimit man pala no na i-address yung problema because they only have a limited budget also.
Yes.
Thank you, Sir, for that.
Thank you, Miss Mabel. You know, ito rin, experience ko, if the budget is limited, if I am the project manager, I will tell them, ito yung activities, ito yung mga magiging gusto nating i-accomplish, we will not meet here. Yung gusto nyong i-accomplish, hindi ito ang magagawa natin. Maybe your budget that you've given me will only take yung sa phase 1, phase 2, wherein pwedeng yung mga initial implementation of the activities. But for the other part of the project, hindi natin maa-accomplish yan. So sometimes, the project manager should have the skills on informing our project owners kung hanggang saan lang yung kayang i-cover ng budget na yon, hanggang saan lang yung scope. So that will now turn into, instead of a macro project, nagiging micro project siya. Yes, dapat may negotiation skills siya. Ayan. Nice. That's nice. Thank you very much for the sharing and the questions. Okay. So, this is where we left, no? Since we have this grid already, ito yung isang tool na pwede nating i-share sa ating mga participants or sa ating project team. So, actually, during the workshop, if we have bigger time sana dito sa ating training, we can do this. We can do some workshop identifying yung ating mga stakeholders. Kagaya nung sinabi ni Sir Jovito kanina, let us try to research and profile our members. Where should they be? They should be at the high interest, di ba? And high power. Parang managing them closely. But tendency, pagka sa cooperative, the General Assembly is not really attentive pagdating doon sa mga project. Parang they leave it already to the management and then to the board of directors to decide on this matter. Kaya nangyayari, they become low interest but high power. So we just keep them satisfied. Or maaaring maging low interest and low power kapag talaga namang disengage yung members natin. So we need to monitor them. So maybe we can do this. If you have time, you can do this activity. It's 11:15 at 20. I forgot the break. Siguro, is it okay if we continue without the break?
Yes.
Okay po. Okay, para exactly 12 we'll have the lunch break, no? Para lang medyo marami yung ma-cover natin. But we will post from time to time if there would be some question. So, I hope this will be useful tool para pwede nating ipa-activity sa ating mga participants. What we can do is pwede naman na kung sa co-op natin may existing project tayo, you allow your stakeholders, like yung employees mo, to sit down and have this workshop. For example, mga branch managers, they can sit down together and then let's say it's a new loan product, pa-identify mo sa kanila who would be these stakeholders. Siguro you can add another column here for the name of the stakeholders, and then decide what would be your activities or tasks para masatisfy mo sila, para ma-monitor mo sila, para ma-inform mo sila, para ma-manage mo sila closely. So you can give this as assignment. So what we did with Tagum, they already have different projects sa Tagum. So what we did are we broke them into 4 groups. When we broke them into 4 groups, we gave them 1 hour to discuss yung mga initial output nila. They presented it in a plenary. Tapos nag-critiquing kami or nagbigay kami ng inputs on the output of those workshops. So we can do the same. Since we are on TOT, I'm just going to share with you the tools that we can use for our orientation and project planning and management training. Okay. So let's now proceed with the project success and failure. So in this topic naman, is there a way for us to determine what would be the challenges that will be encountered during the project implementation? So there's always a paradox, no? There's always this we have this thought that if there's always this 2 sides of the coin, meron magiging successful, but there's also failures, or sabihin na natin things that will not work during the implementation process. And you should be ready emotionally and intellectually for these failures to occur. Kasi since this is a project, test run siya, meron siyang mga activity test that we will implement or that will exist during the implementation or execution of the project. And then, ano dapat yung role natin? We need to document those failures, no? We need to document those experiences. If we do that, then pwede nating i-review how we can address it, or at least park some of the issues, and then find out some steps and solutions to address those kumbaga challenges, no, yung failure points. So it can come on the time, it could be the issues on time delivery, it could come as a budget constraints, no, and it could also be in the scoping, yung mga nag-i-implement and execute ng project, baka may nag-resign, somebody left the team, that will curtail yung delivery ng ating project. So yan. Okay, so when we look at Bakit newspaper? When we look at our environment, when we do some research and profiling, some of the sources is the newspaper, or sabihin na natin in our time, it's our social media, the Facebook or the LinkedIn. Sometimes there are some information here. Pero just it was last Monday, we had this risk management training. You need to actually identify when is an information valid or when is an information not valid. So pagka nag-research tayo, there's an additional layers now to researches. Testing and validating the informations that we were able to gather. So kung dati we just gather a lot of data, tapos we benchmark and then we try to analyze kung ano yung mga information na nakukuha natin. Now, there's a lot of information available, but you have to curate and understand the validity of these sources of information. There are a lot of projects that failed, no? Like if we want to understand, if we have a new project, is this a very unique project? So we can do some researches sa online or even through the newspapers. Tapos, how did they succeed this project? Kanina sinabi natin, digitizing the credit application. So we can look at other cooperatives. Ano yung kanilang success and failure points when they are running this project? Para naman mas mapabilis natin yung ating gathering of information. It does not necessarily na itetest kagad natin kung ano yung ating naiisip, no? Na project. Kumbaga gagawa na kagad tayo ng plans without looking at other initiatives on the same line. Para mas mapabilis, we need to benchmark. Okay? So, yeah. Usually, when you look at the project failures, ito yung mga kadalasang dahilan, no? Little or no planning. Yun nga, parang we wanted to have this outcome and this output immediately. Kailangan na nating ma-produce because ito yung trend, gusto nating sumabay sa trend. So ngayon, sinasacrifice natin yung research part, yung benchmarking and the gathering of data. And to some extent, yung iba naman, they don't sit down. They just allot a budget for this without knowing kung ano ba yung mga activities that will be involved. So, supposed to be the budget, ideally the budget should come out from the plan, no? Parang during the planning and sit-down session, ma-identify mo na kagad kung ano yung projected budget mo. But sometimes they don't go through the planning. Wala nang meeting on how to go through about it. And sometimes we don't identify project managers nga. What we do is we assign somebody na hindi natin alam kung meron nga bang skills or competency to be the project manager for some of the tasks or functions. So, if there's little or no planning, it may be no clear goals, no? Tendency dahil wala ngang meeting, and no clear scope and estimated timeline. Magre-release na lang kagad ng budget for a specific project. If that's done, expect mo na maaaring mag-bloat yung budget or mag-bloat yung requirement for the budget, or you will not finish the project based on the target time. Now, others is lack of leadership and commitment of stakeholders. Okay. Yung mga nasa management team, kadalasan, they know what is needed by the members, no? Tulad ng na-share kanina ni Sir Jovito, kung yung mga board of directors natin, they are not so familiar with the activities of the operations. Even if we present the request or the needs of the members and then we have this proposal, kapag hindi natin na i-level up sa kanila yung needs of arriving with the project, they may approve the project pero yung commitment nila will be very lax, no? So parang the next time you ask for additional budget or the next time you report na medyo nag-fail ka in some activities, ki-questioning ka na nila kaagad. Unlike those who are very much involved, no, on the project and committed with the project, it's easier for them to understand and accept if there are some failures, lalo na kung sa scope and execution of the project. They will easily understand bakit may mga failures na na-experience and they don't stick to those failures. They can even recommend some suggestions or some steps on addressing yung mga project failures. Another reason for failure is the lack of training on technology, on the new technology. Kami sa KRC, we use the Canvas technology. At the beginning, we are not very familiar with Canvas. So yung mga na-experience natin right now, di ba, we've sent already the invitation sa inyo. But what we are using for the LMS is actually an open source Canvas. So yung open source Canvas, since they are free for software engineers, may mga bugs pa siya. Kasi that's what is being used by our program designer. So si Chin experienced this. We have this design, we requested this feature like reportorials para sa mga performance ng aming mga students. They say, yes, kaya namin gawin yan, kaya namin i-produce yan. But when the project finished, yung palang Canvas na open source is limited. Hindi naman pala makakapag-produce ng reports. So all of the promise hindi na ibigay, hindi na i-deliver. Dahil kami, tanga din kami sa technology, we are not familiar with open sources, tendency is yung unang goal namin na very efficient technology, hindi namin na-meet. Nagano na lang kami, compromise kami. O sige, since they've already developed some programs for the content of the e-learning, sige, okay lang sa amin na for development na yan. Kasi ang sabi nila, if we wanted those reports, we will have to pay them to develop it and include it in the open source. Now, there's this additional option, which is the cloud-based Canvas. We ask for quotations for the Canvas na the formal cloud-based Canvas. Lahat ng mga needs namin is present already from the official Canvas. And included na doon yung mga expertise like maintaining the software or the Canvas platform, maintenance, kasama na yon sa subscription. So we don't know that yung open source, we need to lodge it in a different server. So right now, we are paying monthly the same cost that will give us, or the same cost that will entail us if we engage in Canvas, international na Canvas, yung galing sa US. Ngayon lang namin na-realize yan after having a taste of using the open source. So, time-wise, meron kaming lost time for the efficiency of the LMS platform. And then, na-experience pa namin itong mga challenges on the bugs presented to us by the open source. If we had done our research on the Canvas, hindi kami natakot on the cost kasi pwede palang i-request sa international provider na minimum number of participants na 500 numbers or heads lang. Pwede pala nila tayong i-quote. Sa NATCO kami, i-quote kami ng at a rate the same with the amount we're paying for the servers. Less hassle na yon. So that's what our plan now. Phase 2 will come in for next year, and that sprang up from our failures in the phase 1 of the LMS platform. Okay, so yun. So it was a live experience of failure because we lack training, we lack understanding of the new technology. So no lessons learned from historical projects. Well, as for my example about the e-learning or the LMS, this is the first time I handled it naman. So maybe I could have avoided it if I tap someone, I ask for someone who's already knowledgeable in the development of LMS. Because there were already consultants' proposal for them to work on our own e-learning. Nagsasubmit na sila ng mga project proposal. And when I look at the cost of those consultants, it's the same cost that we actually injected on the phase 1 of our e-learning. So if we only ask for other institutions. Pero because of the, parang excuse ko na lang yan, ano, na parang because of the environment or because of the push, constraints ng time, because I'm working from home, siguro excuses ko na lang yan, kaya hindi ko nagawa properly yung research. So I'm actually embracing the blame for that kasi as a project manager, alam ko naman na talagang kailangan mag-research. I just let the challenges push me to work on it, or just because I'm a worker and just following directions. Okay. So, lack of proper project management training, though you have management training, kagaya nito, TOT ito, maaring yung knowledge base natin, kaya nating mag-provide ng mga examples or ng mga mag-cite ng mga information extracted from the materials that we will give you. But if we are not really expert in that line, we will be limited to the information and knowledge that we can share. No? So even though we are already experts in project management, just like Sir Jovito, he's investing on his own education for project management. So and also updating the tools that we have right now. So even if we're already trained in project management, I want you to take advantage of the resources that we shared in the LMS. May mga nakita ako kanina nag-comment, nakapasok na sila sa LMS. Please go through it. There are videos there that we curated. Then there are also some books and materials. Then we will also be uploading itong PowerPoint and the notes that we have for those for this presentation. So go through it. 50-50 tayo. We give this to you. It's now your part to also educate yourself so that when you run this training to your cooperatives, to your members, you'll be more equipped, not only with the information and data that we shared, but also from experiences that you encountered when you are doing your own project management. Okay, so biases, optimism, sunk cost, confirmation. Okay, so itong biases na to, because we are dealing with people, we have different biases. It's unavoidable. But usually, ang impact ng biases, like if the biases is coming from the leadership, the project leaders natin, and then the project management biases, yung manager's biases. Kapag dito sa mga top leads natin sa project, manggagaling yon. Tendency is there would be some bleak areas or activities that we will not be able to plan with. Hindi natin ma-include sa ating plano. That's why the best approach to project planning, you gather all your stakeholders, include them and involve them in the project planning, lalo na yung mga nasa front line. Those who have understanding of the recipients, those who have understanding of the policies, the process, the system, yan ang mga isama mo during the project planning so that you can minimize the biases. Okay? And yung optimism, no? Sometimes we're overly optimistic. Tendency is napaka-positive natin, but we were not prepared of the probable challenges that may occur during the execution. So it pays then if we have some devil's advocate among the planners, no? Magsama tayo ng mga tao na who can really challenge the idea. Kasi kung wala tayong mga people who will challenge the idea, mahirapan tayong mag-identify ng mga possible issues when we implement and execute our projects. Okay. Any questions so far? Wala akong nakikita sa chat box. Okay, so what we have here are 4 bases for successful project designed by Chen Rar and De Vere in 2007. Okay? So dito sa ating nakikita rito, we can actually plot in this grid yung ating mga projects, like based on the technology, based on the pace, based on the complexity, and based on the novelty. Okay, so when you intersect this grid, tendency is you will see kung saan magfo-fall yung ating project in this database or in this grid. Okay, so ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Pagka halimbawa high-tech yung project natin, requires high-tech. And it's very unique. First time it will occur in our organization. First time pa lang natin gagawin yan. So dito siya sa grid, na ito babagsak. So it can be considered as breakthrough. But if it's requiring low technology, dito siya, sa baba, and breakthrough dito siya. So, most likely, kapag dito mag-fall sa high technology and high novelty, the difficulty level is medyo mataas, the difficulty level. And then the pacing would be very fast. Technology-wise, kailangan mabilis ka na i-implement yung ating project. I-execute. Bakit mabilis? Kasi maaring the uniqueness of the idea baka manakaw sa iyo, because when you are already implementing the project, ang nangyayari, there are now a lot of people getting informed of your project. Okay? So na maraming nai-inform. And information travels faster than what we thought of. Mas mabilis kumalat yon. And then there are some entrepreneurial minds na they think na, oo nga, maganda yung ganitong technology and it addresses the needs of the people. Sige, gawa rin tayo ng ganyang same project. But if they don't have challenges in terms of expertise, people, budget, ikaw, meron kang constraints on budget or on people, knowledge and skills, tendency, baka imbis na ikaw yung makapag-proclaim that this is a unique project, sila na yung mag-proclaim ng bagong project na ito. So the pace should be very fast. Now, in terms of complexity and technology, pag itong dalawang ito ang na-engage mo, okay, so what you need here is you need to have time for what you call this, time for aligning all of the people involved in the project, aligning the budget, and then aligning the knowledge level of those who are involved in the project. So pagdating sa pace, it's not really very high yung pacing niya. You might be implementing it longer, or you might plan a longer period because you will have to allot time for research and to understand the complexity of the project, and at the same time to understand the technology. Pagka pinagsama mo yon, you have to be fast but not as fast as yung dito compared to this grid. Okay? So, kapag halimbawa regular activities yan, common siya, and yung complexity niya hindi naman mataas, if the complexity is not high, tendency is maaring maging madali para sa'yo yung implementation ng project natin. So, the reasons why we are sharing this, just a quick visual representation of your experience, if you are thinking that your project is complex or sabihin na natin involving technologies. Kasi kadalasan ito ngayon yung mga engagement natin, yung ating technology, because this is the trend right now. But how will you consider if it's complex for you or if it's just an easy task for you? Okay, so para lang malaman mo where you are in terms of the pace and in terms of kumbaga, the completion of the project if you will engage in such projects. Medyo ang hirap i-explain in terms of co-op. Sige, Miss Mabel, yes, go ahead.
Oo, kasi I'm looking at your illustration again, no. Kailan natin nasasabi, like for example, let's take a look at this scenario that you are in complexity, you are on the assembly category. On the pace, you are in blitz. For example, anong specific activity in a cooperative wherein you are in that stage or phase of your existing project? In your existing project, kasi we're talking of the basis for successful projects eh. So, nandun ka sa category na nasa assembly ka, tapos in terms of pace, nasa blitz ka.
Okay, sige. Ano ba magandang example sa co-op?
Kasi when we talk of blitz, it's like parang ano eh, yung maramihan, 'di ba? You are showered with yung pace parang
fast production.
You're bombarded of parang ganyan of something kung yung if we're talking of the pace, parang ganyan. Yung as you explain it kasi ma'am, chine-check ko po. Nag-iisip kasi ako lagi na ano yung actual na pwedeng nagiging scenario ng existing na activity ng cooperative or even in our organization, federation, or my own activity na masasabi ko na I can assess my existing activity na nandito ako sa category na to, kaya I can say that somehow I'm on the track of yung leading to a successful parang project that I have.
Yes. I'm looking at I'm looking at the different activities natin sa cooperatives. Di ba minsan in terms of the membership, we wanted na parang we wanted to have increased membership most of the times pagdating sa ano natin, sa let's say in a year, that's one of the targets palagi natin or KPIs natin. But supposed to be you are already well versed in terms of the activities of the marketing, no, of papaano mo, how you will actually get them into the cooperatives. So you already knows the process, you already knows the different activities. Maaari you go to the barangays, you go to to the different parts of your community. So, and sometimes the expectations of the managers for you is that you will do as much of these activities in a constrained time. Parang you are given an assignment to do those activities. Pero when you look at the time that is assigned to you, parang unrealistic yung time given to you to accomplish those activities. So ang tendency niyan is there's a chance of failure or a chance of missed activities, planned activities, because if you are limited with people on performing those things, then tendency is parang hindi mo mamimit yung mga expected sa'yo because of this. Although you are already well-versed on the process, you are already well-versed with the activities, but if the demand is really like, oh, it's here, this much, then the target is not realistic, not benchmark on what we have on the past, no, tendency is it may fail. We may not be able to meet those targets in terms of time. So medyo nahihirapan ako isip din ng examples for the cooperatives in terms of yung sa mga services and activities natin. But if we look into the projects usually sa mga cooperatives natin, siguro the pace would be very fast and easy for us if it's service oriented, if it's we are already well versed, provided that we are given enough time na rin. Enough time on delivering yung mga expectations. Ma'am Mabel, maybe you can cite siguro from your end, baka you have parang a thought na rin, Ma'am Mabel, if for the cooperatives, ito yung mga common experiences nila or somebody else.
Actually, ma'am, kasi ang nasa isip ko po, I am looking at this framework na if it's possible to use this particular illustration na i-convert siya into a grid. Kasi parang pag ganito po yung itsura, for me lang ma'am ha, kasi mas medyo visual ako, tapos lagi kong nire-relate yung mga experiences, no. Nothing for me right now in particular yung experience ng co-op, but it might be easier for us kasi TOT nga ito when we explain this particular illustration to maybe we can translate this into grid. Into grid na nakabox siya. So in terms of complexity, is it high-tech, low-tech? So what are the examples in your own respective cooperative when you can say when we talk of technology, it's low-tech but the novelty is breakthrough? Ano yung halimbawa? Parang yung tanong ko sa inyo ma'am, ano yung halimbawa sa co-op na kasi yun nga as a trainer's perspective also that I'm thinking when we will be using this framework also or illustration, ang isip ko po kasi paano ko explain, that's why I am asking ano yung specific na halimbawa. Kasi pag ginamit namin to, importante na maintindihan ng aming tuturuan ano yung pwedeng nyong tignan para masabi nyo na successful yung project ninyo. Kasi ito yung title, the basis of successful project. So, importante dito sa ganitong klaseng illustration, magbigay ka ng halimbawa. O masasabi mo na ikaw ay nasa category ng assembly and your pace is blitz dahil ganito yung nakikita mo sa project. Parang ganyan, Ma'am Rose. But as to specific right now, it might took me some time to really look into yung pag-a-align nitong particular na framework na to.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mabel. Okay, the purpose of this for basis for successful project. Yes, that is one approach na you mentioned, yung pwedeng naka-grid type siya para makita na natin siya on the box. Another way is if you plot it, then if you plot the activities in this, kasi sometimes we have different activities for specific project. Pag i-plinat natin yung activities natin, maybe we can also draw here yung parang ano siya, the flow of the activities based on this grid. Now we took this kasi it's really one tool that we can use to plot yung success natin and expect kung ano yung success level natin. But this tool will show us like if it's just a blitz for us, no? So if this is the pacing, high pace and then low pace, then if this is just an easy for us and parang sinasabi kasi dito, parang our level of understanding of the project plus the time allotted to us, it will be low if we have lesser time, lalo na yung ating if it's lesser yung technology, low tech siya, ganyan, it might be low or maaring ma-center dito yung ating mga activities, or it can be failure. Success rate is high kapag ka we have high knowledge in technology, maaring maging mataas. Yes, you're correct. It would be good sana if we can actually plot it in a box na rin. Siguro I'll try to plot one activity, and then tomorrow we'll show how it can be translated into a cooperative activities na rin. So I'll just check on the projects that we have in the cooperatives, and then we'll show you again tomorrow an example using this grid. Any question or any additional comments po? Yes, Sir Jovit, go ahead po.
Actually, sa umpisa naman ng project planning, meron naman tayong tinatawag na parameters of success. So itong tools na to, I think pwede nating i-relate doon sa umpisa pa lang kung ano yung magiging criteria natin na masasabi natin na successful yung project natin. So I think tama rin yun, maganda rin yung kung naka-create siya, ma'am. But I think ang purpose naman nito is really to show kung saang level yung success rate doon based doon sa original na parameters na ginawa during the project planning. Yun lang po.
Thank you, sir. Kasi through this, we will understand nga po yung halimbawa, yung ating techniques or the tools that we use. Is it being effective for us when we include it in our plan? So parang projection of the success na rin natin of our projects. Thank you, Sir Jovi, sa inputs po ninyo. Salamat po. Okay, salamat po. Meron pa po bang mga comments? Ayan. Actually, there's this simplified, kumbaga, visual representation of measuring the success of the projects. Kung medyo parang medyo complex sa atin yung grid kanina because it has the technology, it has the pace, it has the complexity, no? So this triangle is actually based on the bottom lines, the time, the budget, and the scope. So we can ask these questions. Deliver initial set of deliverables. Does the outcome or completion satisfy the customer? If it refers to the scope of the project. But if it refers to the budget, you can ask the question, are we over budget or under budget? And by how much? So are we on time? So those are easier indicators of our way of measuring our success. Okay, so ayan, iniisip ko kung tutuloy tayo sa next topic because it's almost 12. Maybe we can open some discussions or maybe we can discuss how we can effectively run these materials as well. Sige po, baka gusto ninyong mag-share or mag-open ng ating mga microphones for your comments and questions.
Sige po, we have 8 minutes. Baka may dagdag kayo or parang naisip na effective way para maiano. Sir Jovit, sige po.
May tatanong lang kasi karamihan kasi dito sa classmate natin ngayon ay talagang insiders sa cooperative, mga officers. Ako member, so observer ako. How they manage the cooperative. Ito tanong ko lang, posible ba kasi yung may mga napapansin kasi ako ibang cooperative, they have projects left and right and then nagiging failure kasi hindi nagpapatronize yung mga members. Is it really possible? Comment lang ng mga classmate natin. Yung sinasabi ko kanina, research based. Kasi ako, I've been manager ng Metrobank before at saka sa mga private companies, we always do market research. Bago kami mag-launch either a product, a simple para sa market. Tanong ko lang dito sa mga kasama natin, is it difficult or easy na i-target natin yung product doon sa members ng cooperative? Nahirapan ba kaya sila or talagang may mga pumipigil? Yun lang po.
Mama ko, pwede ako mag-comment.
Yes, opo.
Sir Jovit, ako sa experience ko, sa napansin ko lang sa aking 2004 ako sa co-op eh. So, mga ilang taon na ako ngayon sa co-op. Mga 18 years. Na-observe ko rin nung napunta ako sa federation at nakaikot ako sa ibang mga cooperative. Napansin ko, pero correct me if I'm wrong, validate niyo po ako. Karamihan ng cooperative, sir, wala talaga siyang marketing department. Na true sense ng marketing department. Madalas din sa pagtingin ko sa mga cooperative, madalas yung mga innovations nakikita nila doon sa inspiration sa isang cooperative. Even without market researcher. Nagawa nila, gawin din natin. Minsan nakakalimutan, tama ka sir, na kailangan ba yun ng members namin? Ito ba talaga yun sa members namin? Ginagawa nila maganda gawin din natin. Parang sa akin sir, hindi naman applicable to all. Hindi ko din na-generalize. Pero sa experience ko, napansin ko, one is wala talagang marketing department na talagang naka-establish na po with the marketing research, need-based research na para lahat ng any product na magagawin is talagang based sa mga profile ng mga members. At pangalawa po is yun nga po, minsan yung ating mga current innovations is from the success of other cooperative, regardless if it's like super applicable to us, to our members, or anything. Yun po, yun yung aking napapansin sa ito.
Yes, sir. And to add to that, yung nabanggit ni Chin, more on parang supply-driven commonly, sir, yung co-op than that of the demand. Because siguro ang pagtingin, especially pag medyo limited yung resources ng cooperative, if we do actually the based on the scientific method that we start with identifying the problem, start with going out and do the research if the problem really exists. Sa kanila po kasi ang pagtingin mostly, lalo na pag hindi visionary and development yung thinking ng mga leaders, it's a cost on their end. Parang ganyan, masyadong maggastos yan. It's easy for us to just look at other cooperatives which products that they are doing that are successful, then we can adapt. Parang ganyan, sir. Kaya yung success, I don't know, me too, no? I've been with the cooperative for quite some time. Dumaan tayo doon sa situation also nung microfinance, if you can remember that. Dati kung ang famous are the Grameen replication program, yung Grameen microfinance that you gather a group of women, you train them, then you provide loans for them, and then yung may peer pressure and group liability, yung ganung thing. But not realizing that tayo, yung cooperative, we started that microfinancing way back, more than 150 years ago na ito recently in just 1990 na pumasok si Grameen Replication Program na inadapt naman ng majority ng cooperative. So they have this microfinance program which also they call the Grameen Replication. So yung mga ganong halimbawa, Sir Jobit, na experience po namin working again katulad ni Chin with the cooperative, na yun medyo difficult for the leadership to really how to say fund or really maging serious on looking at funding the research and development. And Chin mentioned the marketing unit or department of the cooperative, which is, sabi ko nga kanina, experience ni Ma'am Rose, ang daming mga setbacks that if we sana fund or look into yung research and development and focus on the research and development, baka na-address natin yung issue ng yung cost and benefit, yung cost and benefit analysis ng isang proyekto, sir. So medyo yon ang mga issues ng cooperative, supply driven, tapos they are thinking that it's costly for them and tedious. Tayo po kasi gusto natin tedious yung proseso. Medyo gusto natin yung ready-made na. So wala nang hindi na mahirap. I don't like to say that the negative word that we're somehow
tanong ko rin yan, ma'am, kasi ang dami ko titingnan mo kasi ang daming failures projects kasi yung mga cooperative. Sayang yung resources. Minsan nag-i-invest na ganito, like example, nang-invest na isang condominium project. Yung mga member farmers. So, kumbaga, kung titingnan mo yung cost-benefit analysis, kung medyo tedious yan, but if you try to look at the result, no? Hindi mukhang ano na hindi na tugma doon sa universal cooperative yung iba. I'm not saying all pero may
Yes, sir.
napapansin ako.
Opo, we understand there are really situations in the cooperative. Kaya sa amin po sa grupo namin nila Ma'am Rose that we really would like to push for yung pag nagre-remind sa co-op, magpagaling muna tayo kung saan tayo yung core na activity natin. Like for example, your core activity is into credit and savings. Paggalingin mo muna yung sarili mo dyan. Magpakilala ka, maging known ka with that particular project. Then you might want to look into other issues, yung mga kailangan mong solusyonan na problema ng community. But for now, because you are registered, your purpose, your objective is for you to address the financial needs of the cooperative, galingan mo muna yung sarili mo on that aspect than looking at other. Yung marami pong ginagawa, sir. Parang jack of all trades and master of none yung nangyayari sa atin. So, it's also bad for everyone because pag may failure ang isang co-op po, di ba, affected din yung ibang cooperatives. Yun yung lagi because again, we do have same surname, we're cooperative. Failure of one is also failure of everyone. Parang ganun, Sir Joey po yung observation namin. Thank you po.
Thank you. Ayan. May tendency rin ng ating mga co-ops to have this bandwagon na shinare mo, Ms. Mabel, sa chat box, no? Yung bandwagon effect na yan. When one co-op started this project, yung ibang mga co-ops will copy. Likewise, no? Gagawa din sila without doing a lot of studies on those projects, mga feasibility studies. Nakita lang nila, nakatapagtapos na silang ganito, pero hindi nila tinatanong, was it successful? Was the project effective? Hindi rin natin na itatanong yan. Thank you for asking that, Sir Jovit. Thank you then for your inputs, Ma'am Mabel. Anyone else? May mga tanong pa rin po ba tayo? Ayan, we still have 2 minutes. Tama ba yung aking timer? Okay, I think kung wala nang masyadong question about it, thank you din sa example, Sir Joey. Tomorrow, I will plot a co-op designing a condominium project on the successful grid natin mamaya. So that we will understand ng application on the co-op grid. Papaano natin magagamit ito as visual representation lang naman of the success of the co-ops. Co-ops projects. Okay, with that, let's proceed with our lunch break. I'll bring the floor to you again, Chin.
Salamat, Ma'am Rose. Ayan, it's 12:02. Balik tayo ng 1:02 pero we request everyone to be back po sa kanilang mga computer 5 minutes before 1:02. So mga 12:58, ayan, para makaresume tayo ng maaga kasi sabi ko nga po punong-puno at saka parang nakakatuwa yung mga sharing din po ng bawat isa ko paano siya mas ma-deliver for the example sa atin pag kayo na po yung mga nagde-deliver na itong topic na to. Sige po, let's have a lunch break and return po before 1:02 dito sa ating Zoom po. Happy lunch po sa bawat isa.
Salamat, Hazel Ann, sa ating mga kasama dito. So, okay. I'm going to share now again yung ating PowerPoint presentation. I hope kayanin natin at umabot tayo sa oras. Okay, so kanina, I was really, alam mo, meron kasi akong pagka-OC, sakit ko na yata ito. Hindi ako mapakali noong itong ating grid na ito. So, binalikan ko siya. So, when we plotted here, nag-provide ng example si Sir Jovi kanina about the condominium construction. So, I took that already as a good example for this grid para ma-determine natin yung ating success level para sa ating co-op projects. Okay? So, the closer the image to your center, the likelihood of success, mas magiging successful yung project natin. But by plotting our projects against these 4 categories, technology, complexity, novelty, and pace, we will know kung tama ba yung strategy natin. We can think of strategy in meeting kung saan tayo medyo far away pagdating dito sa 4 factors na ito. So for example, yung condominium, let's say the co-op has low technology for this, gagawing manual yung construction ng condominium and will not be using sabihin na natin mga machineries na high-tech, no? And then let's say ang iyong assembly is you have a group of people na working towards the same goal. So we plot it here. And then with regards to the pace, sabihin na natin na yung medium lang naman yung pace natin, hindi naman nagmamadaling sobra na parang minamadali like yung blitz. Parang you have to meet a very soon target, no? So in terms of the uniqueness of a condominium, derivative lang siya kasi other organizations are using it. So when you look at it, it's closer to the center. The likelihood na against the three scopes, three bottom lines, the scope, the time, and the budget-wise, kumbaga malapit tayo na there's a possibility na ma-meet natin yung ating scope, time, and budget na targets natin. But let's say, sabihin na natin, co-op would decide that they'll be using high technologies, lalo na kung wala pa silang sabihin nating technologies na available, magre-rent pa sila or they will source out from providers or suppliers, that will be against the budget. Tapos sabihin na natin that they don't have the people internally, tendency is they will outsource some of the activities doon sa mga nagko-construct ng condominiums. And you wanted it to finish fast, although it's derivative, sabihin na natin marami namang nagko-construct ng condominium, the higher is the likelihood na mag-fail daw yung project if it is compared to the budget, time, and scope. So meaning, hindi naman failure, maaring there are challenges that will be met. Ngayon, I tried putting it into table, the demand versus the supply. When you say the demand, the expectations in building a condominium. If you think that you would need technologies in building the condominium, from planning to the execution, you can plot in a table yung demand as the red colored na drawing ng X here. So if you expect that you will need assembly, parang a common group of people na with the same knowledge and know-how on the construction, you would be needing assembly, then you plot it here. And then novelty is derivative kasi common naman siya, and pacing would be at regular pace. If this will be the expectation, now you can plot against it naman yung iyong existing resources, yung iyong manpower, your budget, what you have that corresponds to the expectations of the condominium project. So from there, you will have a quick view of the gaps from the existing project to, from the expectations of the project to what you have. So, ang maganda lang sa tool na i-provide sa atin, you can now use the 4 factors so that you'll find it easy to determine the success level. Pero gaya nung sa chinat ni Ma'am Mabel, may easier way naman pala for us in the cooperatives to determine kung ano yung success of the project, which is by checking these three bottom lines: the time, the budget, and the scope. So are we meeting it based on our targets? Are we meeting it based on the budget provided and based on the projected time for the completion of the project? So yan yung ating iniwan kanina. Now let's move on to the second topic, which is the project scoping. In project scoping, we will look into the dependencies, yung scheduling, and as I mentioned earlier, yung trade-offs. Ano yung mga pwede natin na i-sacrifice or yung ating i-compromise for for us to just to meet the targets of the project, yung objectives ng project. But before we go to that scoping, let us understand, or let us allow our participants to identify what plan is. Kasi yung action planning, maybe we are already familiar with action planning. So it was defined by Drucker, management guru, that a plan is a statement of intentions and commitment. The purpose of the plan, naka-ano ba siya? Naka-slideshow ba siya? Okay. The purpose of the plan is actually to provide us a guide on our project implementation. So hindi siya straight jacket na hindi mo na baka you are worried that if you deviate from it, parang magiging indication na parang you are straying away from the original objective. So it serves as a guide for us to be more efficient in planning our activities. Others, they don't want a moving plan, no? So kasi parang business plan is already a target fixed plan. But you know, in reality, we do some adjustment. We need to revise it. One thing is we can actually strategize and assume some methods that we will find it more easier for us to meet our objectives. So ayan, we should revise it from time to time depending on how far we are from our project objectives or yung target natin. And then we should also look into anticipating the other needs of the stakeholders or those who will be involved in the execution of the plan. So flexibility is a requirement for our plan. And we need to put in place yung ating mga criteria or points in checking if we are near or far from our project objectives or project goal. No? So against the expectations, how far are we? So this will become now yung ating mga records of the documentations of the performances in the project would now become a resource or become a basis for our time management, at the same time for the budget management na rin. Okay? And if we need to request for more budget sa mga projects natin, this can also help as a support for our projects. Ayan. So, ang project life cycle, these are the four parts of the project life cycle. Kanina we've discussed about the initiation phase, which is conducting researches or profiling our stakeholders and everything that we will need to know before we start the project execution. So ano yung definition natin in which area yung ating project magpo-fall, kaya may mga pino-provide din sa ating tools just to have a visual presentation of our kumbaga project success. Now the planning phase differs based on the kind of project that we will engage. Kung medyo micro project yan, planning will be easy for us. But if it's a macro project, we may need a lot of time to do the project planning. Others, they don't dwell much on the planning, no? Kasi medyo familiar na sila with the activities. But others, they really spend a lot of time discussing what is entailed in the project. Ayan. Before I continue, Chin, please message me na lang sa aking chat sa cellphone ko if bigla akong malaglag. Okay? So I'm worried about baka mamaya salita ako ng salita tapos wala na pala ako.
Pag hindi na kami nag-react, ma'am, sabihin wala na kami nun, ma'am.
Okay, so let's continue. So under planning, meron tayong scoping, meron tayong breaking down the scope, yung paghihimay ng tasks, dependencies, and schedules. Then meron din tayong identification of the plan resources. Tapos ano yung mga kailangan natin na pwede nating ma-sacrifice, mga trade-offs, tapos ano yung pwede nating itabi muna, no? Hindi natin i-prioritize. But part of the planning is also what we call the risk management plan, no? So sa risk management plan, we will later identify what could be some tools that we can use in risk management or risk identification. Tapos, are we going to mitigate the risk or are we going to come out with other activities para naman sa addressing the risk, directly addressing the risk? So, execution is now when you are done with the plans, you now implement the plans accordingly. And part of the execution is the monitoring. So pagka nagmo-monitor po tayo ng mga plans natin, 'di ba, ini-implement natin yung activities, meron tayo ngayong ma-identify na parang decision box or sabihin na nating gaps in the execution of the plans. It's the time that we make a pause, tapos we analyze what worked and did not work during the execution of the plan. So may mga pauses tayo so that even if we continue with the next activities or next task, hindi natin dala-dala yung mga errors or possible risk as we proceed with the project execution. So there will be time for us to correct and control yung mga errors during the execution. Then closing would be the signing off. Usually, pagka nagko-close na, there's this documentation. But in terms of softwares na lang, for example, yung HRIS namin, maybe you will stop hiring people who are developing the softwares. Pero you need to identify at least one or two who will continue with the implementation of the softwares, no? So parang mangyayari, these two person will oversee if there would be possible problems or future bugs sa mga ginagawa nating sa rolling of the output or yung ating product and services. So, hindi mo kagad-agad tatanggalin yung tao na isa or dalawa doon sa project. Even if yung describe or yung defined activities mo during the project planning ay na-complete na natin. So, but pagdating sa the end, meron pa rin tayong ginagawang monitoring, no? And before we do what we call the post-mortem. The post-mortem is finally getting our hands off the project and turning it over to who would be using yung ating output or yung ating outcome. So for us, tayong mga consultants, marami sa atin dito mga consultants, right? When we do consultancy, we teach our counterpart doon sa mismong co-op kung papaano yung gagawin nilang mga activities. We give them the tools, no? We teach them how to use the tools, answer the forms, and then schedule. Tinuturuan na natin sila. So we transfer the technology. But before we leave, we also ensure that they have manuals, and then we tell them that we still open our communication should they have questions or concerns while they are using the new technology or the new knowledge they gained from us if we are the consultant. So hindi ka agad-agad sila kumbaga iniiwanan after the project. Okay, so this is a picture of our project life cycle. So for the first image, di ba? Others, if it's really complex or if it's very new, yung kanyang uniqueness nung yung novelty nung project is talagang wala pa, non-existent. Usually they spend a lot of time in the preparations, initiation and planning. There's a lot of time spent here. And then the largest amount of time is spent on the execution before close out. But others, as I've mentioned, may mga project kasi na we are really familiar na with that project. then we don't spend so much time in the initiation and planning phase. We just go through the execution. Maybe if, let's say, we have events na kumbaga ay bago pa lang naman din, no? Or sabihin na natin, every year nag-change yung theme ng ating events, then we don't go through much preparations kasi may mga organizers ka na dyan. Ang nabago lang naman doon sa event would be the theme and then the content of the program. So you spend more time on the execution before the closing. But there are also some projects na after you've done some initiation, some planning, you have to go back to the initiation phase or in the planning phase. Kahit na nag-execute ka na, go back pa rin to the planning phase. Parang one step forward tapos one step backward, or 2 step forward then 1 step backward ulit. So babalikan mo to make sure that what's in the plan are updated. Okay? Tapos they really work based on the manuals. These kind of projects are very reliant on the process plan na na-develop. So kadalasan mga processes, kadalasan mga production manufacturing, mga ganyan, doon sila ini-apply before the closing. Because after the project, you need to document the experiences, kaya babalikan mo siya. So sa amin, nung I was the training specialist of Land Administration and Management Project. Ang project namin before with DENR and LRA was to develop the cadastral map coming from satellite camera. So nung time na yon, siguro hindi ko alam kung inabutan ng mga millennials natin. Noon kasi ang cadastral map are drawn by surveying. Kaya makikita mo around the Philippines, ang daming mga civil engineers, may makikita ka, may spotter. Pero right now, in our time ngayon, medyo bawas na. Hindi ka na makakita ng mga surveyors na nasa kalsada. It's because the satellite are actually capturing yung landmarks. Tapos pwede na siyang mag-create ng mapa. Okay? So during the implementation of that, tinitingnan namin how it will be applied sa land titling. Kasi sa Burma, sa Thailand, and sa yung isa pang Japan, ang kanilang land titling takes 1 hour to 3 hours with that system. So we wanted to bring it to the Philippines. Ang nag-train sa amin is Australian Aid at saka US Aid. Magkasama sila. Nung dinadala na namin dito yung project sa Philippines, ang hindi namin na-anticipate, because it's very unique for the Philippines and there's nothing like that sa US and Europe, is what we call the syndicate of suksok bunot. Okay? Sindikato ng suksok bunot. There are some people inside the land titling na nagbubunot sila ng mga title, they duplicate it, and then binebenta nila doon sa mga nakatira sa mga informal settlers. So parang yung title ngayon nagiging dalawa. So, habang nagbibigay kami ng orientation or ng information doon sa aming prototype area in somewhere in Commonwealth, no? Yung doon sa may Commonwealth, meron ding nagbibigay ng talk at the other side of the community. Habang ini-educate namin sila, may nag-educate din dito sa kabilang side. So, what happened is, hindi kami maka-continue sa execution. A 3 years project took a 5 years turn. So, nagkaroon ng phase 2. And up until now, when you look at our system and process inside the LRA at saka sa DENR, meron pa ring challenges pagdating sa land titling. Not all areas can immediately produce land titles. Originally, it took us 3 years, even up to 10 years bago makapag-produce ng land titles. So, That was our previous experience during that project. We call it LAMP, no? Land Administration and Management Project. Nasa prototype 2 ako during that time. So, we needed the documentation of that experience. We need to submit it to OSAID and to USAID. So that will be granted additional budget for phase 2. And to have it, parang continued na yung project na yon. It was turned over to LRA, but there's a very small unit doing it. I'm not sure now kung mabilis na ang processing ng land title in QC and in Butuan. Kasi ito yung dalawang prototype namin na offices. Okay? So, case-to-case basis. Now, earlier I've mentioned na as you implement the plan, pwede kang may poses during the execution. So this is just a good illustration of that process ng execution, project execution. We call it the state gate process, and it was developed by Cooper and EdChet. If you will notice, so the initiation phase is more of nakasulat dito discovery, because this involves the research, no? So they do the research. And then there's a gate wherein decisions are made. So from the outcome and output, it's presented to a body of people involved in the decision making. After presentation, if it's approved, then you will proceed now to the next stage, could be a business case. And ito na yung sa mga budgeting, allocations of the budget, and then siguro assignment and determining sino yung mga project people na i-hire for those projects. Once na in place na yung iyong mga stakeholders, yung workers mo, yung project implementation officers, kung meron ka pang community development officer na i-deploy, na-hire mo na rin yan, post uli, present it to the decision-making body, and then there's another gate, which is another way of discussions. If should we proceed or not? No? So once it's okay, they think it's a completed staff work, no? Kung completed staff work na yan, wala na silang nakikitang loopholes, then they proceed with stage 2. It could be a development or it could be a testing and validation. But for every stage, before they complete the project, before the launching of the project, there's always a gate. No? Kaya tinawag siyang the stage gate process. Now, it's up to us if we want to use this strategy or this approach. No? So, magaganda ito kasi kapag halimbawa, meron tayong mga community development projects. Maganda may mga poses tayo before we utilize the budget or before we implement the activities para walang mga butas pagdating sa mga execution and implementation. Yan. Okay, so are there any
naglag si Ma'am
Rose? Pinapakiramdaman ko kasi baka ako yung naglag.
Gumagalaw ka, Miss Chin eh. So,
Ayan,
si Ma'am
gumagalaw
Rose,
ako.
gumagalaw.
Ayan. Si Ma'am Rose, parang sinasabi niya kung meron ba kayong ano. So pagbalik ni Ma'am Rose, question and answer. So sa mga natapos ni Ma'am Rose na explanation, prepare niyo po yung inyong mga questions. Ayan, Ma'am Rose. Ayan. Mamaya ako na lang mag-share ng PowerPoint ni Ma'am Rose tapos para ma-off na lang yung ano ni Ma'am Rose. Ma'am Rose, teka lang, PM natin si Ma'am Rose. Ayan. So ngayon, pakihanda na po ang inyong mga questions. Ayan, tuluyan na nawala si Ma'am Rose. Nandun na tayo sa sa stage gate. Ayan. So ito, i-share ko yung screen ko tapos para mamaya si Ma'am Rose. Ayan. Ma'am Rose, nakabalik ka na po ba? Ang hirap ng ano, no, ng ano, masaya na mahirap ang buhay ng ano, ng online. No, sir. Masaya kasi syempre, hindi tayo matatraffic masyado. Pero kapag ano, pag nag-run out, wala. Wala. Ayan. Sige, habang
Hello?
Ma'am Rose, nawala
Yes.
ka nung sa part na ano, ma'am, nag-a-ask ka kung may mga question po.
Okay, okay. Good, good. Doon lang pala. Chin, please, I need your help. Siguro ikaw na lang ang mag-share ng ano, PowerPoint. Yan. Okay. Okay. So it seems walang question. I will not open my video. Okay lang? Salamat. Thank you for your understanding. So, clear naman ang audio ko, no? Okay, sige. Let's continue. Next slide, Chin, please. Ayan. We have 30 minutes. May raraos din natin ito. Bawi tayo bukas. Okay. Hi, technology. Okay, so next is the scoping. Can we go with the scoping, Chin? We're done with that. Ayan, i-skip na natin yan kasi na-preempt ko siya kanina. Okay, so let's now go with scoping, project scoping. Now, ito yung isa sa mga framework that we can share when we are actually presenting our project. And this can also serve as our anchor sa ating project management. When we are doing project scoping, we can include or we can always refer to the mission statement of the project. Okay, so hindi naman tayo babalik dun sa co-op's mission statement. We will go back to the mission statement of the project. Okay, and then we can also look into our procurement strategy. When you say procurement strategy, of course, may mga kailangan tayong materials or may mga kailangan tayong services to run our projects. Now, you ask yourself, do you have the network? Do you have, kumbaga, yung affordable sources of our materials or services? Others, the government, what we do, we announce it publicly sa newspapers. And then we ask for bids. No? So, ang ideal talaga is the best services against the lowest cost pagdating sa bids. But sad to say, I experience that's not the case. It's the highest cost against the connections. So I had an experience before that ang kinuha na bidder is yung medyo malapit or madikit sa pinaka-owner ng aming project. It was a government project kasi. Okay, so that was a sad experience I had nung nasa decades ago naman na siya. Baka iba na ngayon ang government. Okay, so others, check on the commission and validation plan. Okay, so when you say commission and validation plan, could be you need to validate the kinds of expense relationship with your providers and with the suppliers then or yung mga donors natin. Ano yung allocation natin? If the donor will give us this budget, saan i-allocate mo yung 20% of the budget? Maaring yon ay ibabayad sa doon sa tao na magro-roll ng project. Pwedeng community development officer. Ito lang yung sasagutin ng project. Then the rest would go to the services na. Like yung mga venues, yung mga materials na kakailanganin. So yun, mga titignan din natin yan. The construction plan, kung yan ay constructions, no? Kung yan ay constructions. And the scope, of course. Yung scope, sino yung mga maapektuhan na stakeholders and who will be involved in the project. Now, as I've mentioned, part ng planning is the risk identification. And project controls, resource planning, yung schedules of release of funds, kasama yan sa resource planning. Then project execution approach and design plan. For this risk identification and project controls, we might be able to reach it, no, and discuss it today. But pag hindi natin maabot ito today, we will continue it tomorrow. Kasi I want to stick with our time para din naman po baka meron kayong mga calls or meetings after the promised time natin. Okay, so resource planning, project execution approach, and design plan will be discussed for tomorrow. Okay, so next slide please. Ayan, punta na tayo doon sa project scoping. There's this approach or strategy in project planning, and we call it work breakdown structure. Tandaan nyo po yan, WBS. Work breakdown structure, lalo na yung sa mga bago nating mga employees na nandito rin. If you will be given a project and it will be assigned to you, huwag mong kalilimutan itong work breakdown structure. Usually, when we do a work breakdown structure, we start by identifying ano yung pinaka-task and main functions. Tapos hihimayin natin yan, no? So what are the, kumbaga may major projects, sub-projects, work packages, activities, and tasks. Okay? Bakit sinabing projects, sub-projects? Kung macro yan, what we usually do pagka macro ang project, every area and deliverables ng project, dinidistribute natin sa different teams. No? Kung doon na nga sa condominium, meron kang naka-assign on the electricity, no? Meron din naka-assign doon sa mga tubero, yung nagmamanage ng plumbing. Merong naka-assign doon sa construction. So meron kang, yung mga nasa construction, meron pa silang nagche-check na superintendent, nagche-check ng mga trabaho, ng mga nagmumuhon, mga ganyan. Pero bago mo ipasok yung mga sub-projects na mention ko earlier, like electricity, plumbing, kailangan tapos yung sa building construction bago sila papasok. Ngayon, ang next na group or team would be yung sa designing na nung sa loob mismo ng mga condominiums, no, yung pinaka-finishing, no. So, kung bawat isang sub-projects na ito will break down their work, their activities and tasks, medyo iba compared to the other teams. At marami siya. So, habang hinihimay mo itong mga work packages na to, makikita mo rin yung resources or people resources that you need para makapag-proceed ka on delivering yung specific objective ng team mo. Okay? So, at the beginning, while we are doing the work breakdown structure, you can start by brainstorming, no? I-plot down mo muna lahat ng idea. Next page please, ano. Okay. Sige, skip mo na yan. No, skip mo na.
Hi, my name.
We can skip that kasi it's in the ano. Ayun yan. Go back to that one. Next, yung prior kanina. Yan, okay. So, in the way work breakdown structure, what you can do is, kanina nakita ninyo yung example ko is yung sa cold pressed juice production. So kapag wala kang knowledge, you need to do some research. So isa sa mga pwede nating gawing activity when we do this training of trainers, one is let us have a practice activity. Let's say magpo-produce tayo ng juices na cold press. So what do we need to do? First, we need to understand yung process mismo ng production of cold juices. Now, you can play yung video na nakita nyo kanina na ini-skip na natin kasi mga 7 minutes din siya. Now, after that, you can call the participants to go into yung palang post-it doon sa ating mga applications, no? Pwedeng sa wall or sa blackboard. Then you tell them to break down the steps and activities in producing a cold pressed juice. So brainstorming activity. So they will write they will write using a mind map, no, kung paano nila i-define yung work structure in the juice production. Now, sa co-ops natin, maybe you can ask them, ano ba yung current project natin ngayon? Anyone can cite? May mga current project ba tayo ngayon? Maybe you can give me an example of your current project sa co-op. Mukhang walang current projects ngayon. Busy with General Assemblies yata. Okay. So siguro sabihin na lang natin, yung ating General Assemblies, may very micro project doon. Sabihin na natin, gagawa kayo ng, yan, yung favorite ko. Gagawa kayo ng murals, no? Wherein you will allow all your members to draw something doon sa inyong wall, no? Sabihin na natin, magpapagawa ka ng murals as a project. Before the General Assembly. Tapos yung pag-expose ng mural na yon will be done during the General Assembly schedule. Okay, so ang target date mo is the General Assembly. But what would be needed to have those murals? Of course, you will have to express and you will have to inform your members ano yung objective mo, bakit gusto nyo ng mural. Could be you want something to represent the co-op where they are part of that murals, no? Tapos, you need a team to prepare the paint, the brushes, the colors. Tapos, saan sila maghuhugas ng mga pintura. You need to schedule yung time kung kailan sila pwedeng mag-painting. Huwag tag-ulan kasi mabubura yung ating mga murals kapag ginawa natin yon. And then, pag pinabayaan mo lang ang design sa mga members, tendency is parang magiging abstract yan, kanya-kanyang idea. So you may want to ask somebody to make a design of the mural. Siguro may artist among your members, no? Tingnan mo kung sino sa kanila yung who can actually do a design. Ngayon, i-complicate natin. Maybe you can think of a contest. O, pagandahan kayo ng design, submit a design, which we will transform into a mural, at ang mananalo doon sa contest will receive 1 sack of rice. Pwedeng ganon yung maging approach natin. That is if you have enough time to do it. So brainstorming, put it in the blackboard or in the post-it, using post-it. And then from there, you will now have to organize the work breakdown structure, no? So let's go to the next slide. Ayan. So, dun sa naging example natin, probably this will be the different departments, the faculty, design process, finance, IT, ayan, no? Tapos sa packaging na ito, yung HACCP. Let's say you have this as the different departments who will be involved in the process of preparing juice. Kapag hindi pa to existing, then you will have to create the department or the unit, no? But usually we have our HR, we have the marketing already. Siguro yung HR would look for people na wala pa tayo, non-existent pa, or the marketing will benchmark sa market ano ba yung mga magagandang packaging style or way of selling the products, no? So this is just simple example pa. But if you really break down the work of HR, the work of marketing, no, and the IT, next slide, it might look like this. Ganyan, no? So maaaring hindi niyo na nababasa, di ba? Mas lalo na yung kasunod na slide. Yan. Okay? So yung kaninang nakita nyo na simple illustration of the different work breakdown, the first one, pag hinimay-himay mo kada isang department or unit, you will now find out that the juice production is more complex than what you think of. Ayan. So halos di mo na makita. But the good thing about the work breakdown, makikita mo na ngayon dito kung ano yung mga activities that are duplicated or repeated. Maaring may mga naduduplicate silang functions or activities. Also, you will find nasaan yung mga gaps, sino yung mga walang tao. And then you will also understand kung sino yung mga department or units na nangangailangan ng pinakamalaking chunk from the budget. So kaya maganda kapag meron kang project planning, ma-breakdown mo na yung scope ng project based on the activities na kakailanganin mo when you do or when you roll the project. Of course, I will always remind you, do some research muna. No? So dapat may basis yung kanilang work breakdown. Hindi yung huhulaan pa nila kung ano yung ipapasok nila sa ating work breakdown schedule. Okay? So far, no question. Next slide. Yan. So tips in doing the work breakdown structure, kasi part to ng planning, as I mentioned earlier, you can use the sticky notes, the blackboard or whiteboard, but you have to involve the team development, no? Sino yung involved sa development of the project? Usually these are the leads. Sila yung mag-a-assume ng mga roles, major roles in the project. Then, once you have the raw data para doon sa breakdown, ask somebody to put it in a more organized tool. It can be an MS project or a work breakdown structure pro na software. Okay, so pwede mo na itong i-assign sa mga magagaling sa computer. Kung magma-manual naman tayo, find somebody who's very good in using the Excel format so that they can create a Gantt chart sa ating Excel format, or even parang by department or by assignment na kanilang work structure. So kada sheet merong, this is the work structure of, sabihin na natin, ng finance department. Tapos second sheet, this is the work structure of the HR department. Tapos third sheet, this is the work structure of the IT department. So yan, pwede siya sa Excel. Now, keep note, now once you place something on the work breakdown schedule or structure, hindi pa ito yung complete mismo kasi meron pa rin pala tayong hindi maka-capture sa work breakdown structure. But more or less 5% or 10% of the total duration of these activities na-cover na natin. Nakita na natin at na-analyze na natin. So yun yung isang maganda kapag ginamit natin tong work breakdown structure. Honestly, sino sa co-op natin ang gumagamit na nitong WBS?
Kami po, ma'am. PMPC.
Ay, very good. EPMPC. Ayan. Do you have a software, Sir Alvin?
Wala po.
Excel format lang.
Yes, ma'am. Excel format lang.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So that's good. At least you have an understanding of the work breakdown structure. Tapos, as I've mentioned, involve the people who will be doing the team development. Though this is not project management, di ba pag strategic planning, it's like a project management na rin na activity. Usually, other organizations, what they do, during my consultancy time, they call a strategic planning involving the managers of the different branches and departments. Tapos, kasama na rin yung mga board of directors. Okay, so during the strategic planning, we will be held in one location na para i-discuss kung ano yung mga vision mission nila. But when we go down to the details of the activities para doon sa implementation na nung vision mission na yon, doon kami na lalaglag because there's no conference with the people involved mismo doon sa different department. Kaya ang nangyari is what we did before we proceed with the strategic planning, make sure that there's also at their level, the different departments will have their own planning or strategic planning. So you ask the people in the front line. Tapos magiging representative na lang yung mga managers natin, Yung iba nga, isinasama pa yung supervisors nila because the supervisors can speak well of those people who are down the line, not only the managers. No? So, depending on the size of your organization, maybe you would want to consider na isama sa inyong project planning yung mga nasa front line or yung mga down the line. Okay, next slide please. Yan. So, we're done with project scoping. Sana ma-explain natin ng maayos yon sa ating mga kasama. But this is still part of project scoping, which is identifying the dependencies. Sige, next slide natin. Okay. So, this is the work breakdown structure, no? Let's say this is just a simple startup project na lahat ng ating mga departments would be involved. Maaring meron tayong creatives, meron tayong sa strategy, IT, fundraising, marketing, sales, finance, and HR. So for example, ang gagawin natin is, it's the very first General Assembly na blended siya. We are going to use a software na feeling mo you are inside a convention. There are different rooms in your website, no? Maaari kang mag-join sa discussions, maaari kang pumunta sa mga stalls, pero nasa internet ka lang. Wala ka sa face-to-face. Okay? So, maaari kang magpunta sa different rooms inside the website, pero may mga assigned people in those different rooms. Like it could be the creative, it could be the IT, it could be the fundraising, no? So, wala pa naman tayong specific na assignments, but this would be the people who will be involved. So we have this. Okay, next slide. Okay. Now you will have to determine kung sino yung dependent na trabaho doon sa ibang departments. Kasi kanina, we identified creative, sabihin na natin creative is number 1. Sila yung magdi-design ng team ng inyong event. Sila yung magdi-design ng anong color ang gusto mong gamitin na theme, color theme para sa cover ng iyong book or ng iyong report. Pati na rin sa website or doon sa platform na gagamitin mo, dapat pareho yung color. So, itong si creative, ilagay natin sa number 1. Then strategies, designing ano yung magiging presentation, at paano magpe-present. Are you going to use the Zoom platform? Are you going to use na parang video na recorded? Yung strategies kailangan din natin. Okay. Then IT is there para sila yung magtrabaho ng mga, sabihin na natin, pagdating doon sa interactive features ng inyong General Assembly online. But before that, meron din tayong tinatawag na fundraising. Yung mga nag-asikaso naman, saan natin huhugutin yung mga kailangan nating pambayad doon sa gagamitin nating software. O kaya naman, may pambabayad ba tayo para doon sa web developer kung kinakailangan. So si fundraising. Then marketing is siya na yung once na done na or complete na yung design ng ating website or ng ating design ng ating or yung plan ng ating gagawing General Assembly online, siya na ngayon yung i-inform, magka-cascade sa lahat ng mga cooperatives ng kanilang mga paano sila makaka-join sa online General Assembly. Goes the same with the sales, no? So here, ngayon, ibabangga natin sila from the same headings of the different departments. So as you will see here, si HR, bago siya makakuha ng mga tao, HR here under column 4, dependent siya ngayon kay fundraising. Right? So ito yung dependencies niya. Bago siya kumuha ng tao or mag-outsource ng ipapatrabaho sa creatives, dapat may pera. So ang dependencies ngayon ni HR is yung activity ni fundraising. At the same time, si creative, para magawa niya yung kanyang objectives, which is column number 1, kailangan niya yung pera coming from fundraising. Kailangan niya yung idea ni marketing, papaano niya, ano ba yung mga kailangan ni marketing para makapag-invite siya. Kailangan niya siguro ng mga flyers, ng mga posters on FB page, kailangan niyang magpa-blast ng FB, no? So, kailangan niya rin yung inputs coming from marketing. The same goes with sales, no? Kung sino man yung mga products na, kung sino man yung nag-aasikaso ng mga product items na souvenirs, si sales yon, so kailangan niya rin ng idea. Bago niya ma-produce yung best creative ideas for the event, kailangan niyang mag-gather itong tatlong ito. So ito ngayon yung tinatawag mong dependencies. The fundraising, marketing, and sales, dependencies niya. Ang dependencies siya ni creative. Okay? So the same goes with strategy. Bago ka mag-proceed with the strategy, you need to have the ideas of marketing and sales. Okay? Kasi sila yung bring down sa ating mga members. This is the matrix structure. Kung ituturo natin ito sa ating mga participants, maybe using also yung beginning natin, di ba? Pinagbigyan natin sila kanina ng, sige, mag-mental muna tayo, mag-mind mapping muna tayo, or mag-brainstorming muna tayo. Ipa-organize nyo ngayon during training kung ano yung mga activities na yon or sino yung mga stakeholders involved. Once na-identify na nila, ibigay nyo itong tool na ito sa ating mga participants. Then, you now identify, i-matrix type nyo na para identify nyo na kung sino yung mga dependencies. Okay, sige, next, proceed natin. Almost time. Let me just finish these dependencies, then we'll continue the rest tomorrow. Okay. So dito naman sa dependencies, nakita na natin yung kung sino yung predecessors. Bago makapag-proceed ang fundraising, ang predecessor niya si creative, si marketing, ang kanyang predecessors ay si creative at saka si strategy. So yung nakita nyo kaninang box, ipa-plot natin dito sa table para lang mas maintindihan natin kung sino yung mga predecessors. Yung predecessors, they are the first group who will work. Kaya ito yung tinatawag nating dependencies. They are the first group to produce bago nila ma-assume yung kanilang functions. Next slide. Ayan. Okay. So karugtong pa rin po ito. Diba? Plinat na natin siya sa table. So one way, makikita mo na kagad immediately by looking at the table. Now, pero gusto mong makuha yung time frame. So this is another tool or another approach to identifying the dependencies by doing the time framing using the network diagram. So kanina sabi natin, creative to do his work, kailangan niyang makuha yung inputs ni marketing, ni sales, at saka ni fundraising. So dito siya dependent sa tatlong ito. Okay? Si strategy din, bago mo magawa yung strategy, kailangan nyo ng input coming from the sales and the marketing. Okay? So, and so on. Itutuloy lang natin. Si marketing would be needing the help of finance para naman sa capital niya for the designing of the marketing or promotional materials. Ayan. Ay, ang galing, Ma'am Nanette. So that's the next point. Did you notice that IT is just alone? Wala siyang predecessor. In reality, they stand alone kasi they are waiting for the rest to do their functions bago niya makuha yung kanyang assignment. So let us look wherein IT is now connected. Sige, next slide please. Yan. So para may connect mo in the network diagram ang ating IT, of course, you need a starting point, no? So when you say starting point, ito yung zero pa. Wala pa tayong time, hindi pa natin nakikita how long the project will begin. So that would be the 0. Okay, so in every project, there is a start and there is an end. Okay, so but before you go to the IT and the other part of the team, you need now to determine the number of hours or weeks that they will work para ma-deliver nila yung mga requirements nila. Sige, let's see what's the next slide. Exit ka muna kay pen. Ayan. Okay. So, kanina drinote natin sa network diagram yung start and yung end. Yun yung usual. We have the start and then you go with the strategies na mag-finish na siya. But sige, i-proceed mo yan, i-down mo yung click mo lang siya. Okay? But there are actually 4 types of dependencies. Yung tinatawag natin na finish to start. Kailangan yung task A will be able to finish yung kanyang task bago mag-proceed si task B. So bakit ko i-describe ito? For example, si IT, wala siyang predecessor si IT. So pwede ba siyang mag-start on his own? By looking at the network diagram, yes. No? Pwede siya magsimula kasi wala siyang predecessors. But there are those like yung sa creatives, no, na kailangan nila na like si marketing, kailangan nilang matapos muna si creatives bago sila mag-begin. So that's finish to start. Now meron namang iba na finish na dependencies. 2 tasks that need to finish together bago mag-proceed yung mga succeeding na mga teams. For example, kailangan matapos muna ni creatives yung kanyang plan, ni marketing yung kanyang marketing and marketing strategies, at saka si finance na meron ng budget bago ngayon makapagtrabaho yung hiring ng HR, bago makapagtrabaho yung mga website developer. No? So they have to finish together yung mga 3 departments or units. They need to finish at the same target of time, no? Bago magsimula yung mga susunod na activities. Merong dependencies na start to finish, yan. Ang sabi dito, a slightly more complex relationship may exist where we have a start implying a finish. Meaning, bago magsimula yung activity ng isang empleyado, kailangan tapos na yung project, no? Ito yun ngayong dependencies na kung saan tapos na yung project, completed na siya, nandun lang siya to serve as parang monitoring lang, no? Monitoring of the outcome of the project, no? So you need the project to finish bago ka pa makapag-start. But there are naman activities that they can start at the same time, simultaneous. Yun yung si IT. IT can start with other departments even if sabihin na natin hindi pa tapos si creatives, hindi pa tapos si fundraising. Pwede na siyang magsimula ng planning on his own. So, these are the different relationship, no, ng ating mga dependencies. Sige, next slide. Okay. So I said I'll finish first with the dependencies. But tomorrow I will discuss and continue with the dependencies. Babalikan natin yung network diagram. Makikita nyo ngayon, if we compute for the time ng mga dependencies na yon, makikita ninyo and ma-determine ninyo yung tinatawag nating critical path. So to preempt my presentation bukas, itong critical path, these are the activities na hindi natin pwedeng baguhin ang schedules, or kumbaga ay pag binago mo siya, apektado yung buong project. Kaya tinatawag siyang critical path. Pero we'll pause here and we'll continue tomorrow. We'll finish with the dependencies muna. So let us hear if you have any question or you would want to share. May gusto bang mag-share? Ayan.
Nakaraos ang internet natin, Ma'am Rose.
Oo nga. With data. Yes. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being patient. Pero do you have any question?
Or dagdag po or clarification doon sa mga na-discuss po ni Ma'am Rose kanina. Ito na po yung pagkakataon na natin para ma-clarify. Para bukas Ma'am Rose, I assume magre-recap pa naman po tomorrow before po tayo mag-move na po.
Oo, yes.
Sige po. Baka may question, dagdag, or even halimbawa, sabi nyo nga po kanina yung mismo paano i-relay, baka meron kayong dagdag na naisip na strategy na pwede ba itong ganito yung approach para kung sakali pagbaba namin yung information, mas naka-localize yung or may example na particular. Meron po ba kayo naisip? Clarification? Wala. Nag-i-internalize pa lang daw, Ma'am Rose. Ma'am Rose, baka may konting dagdag injection ka doon sa mga natapos na topic para kung sakasakali or kung wala man po, Ma'am, is yung parang assignment po kung para tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that. Meron tayong isi-share na tools sa kanila. Even if hindi pa natin na-discuss, just fill it up at your time this evening or this afternoon. I-fill in nyo lang din siya because this would be the tools na ipapamana natin sa mga participants natin na dadalo ng ating mga trainings. Pwede nilang magamit sa kanilang project planning. Kahit hindi nyo matapos yung tool na i-fill up, you can actually share then tomorrow kung hanggang saan yung inyong na-complete in filling up the forms. Siguro I'm sure si Sir Jovit, ma-fill up niya na yun lahat kasi na siya, seasoned project manager. Ayan.
Bukan natin, Ma'am. Marami pang gagawin kasi.
Opo. Okay po. Then we'll ask somebody to share it. Okay. I'm sharing the tools here sa chat box. Can you open the PowerPoint, Jean?
Yes, Ma'am. Sige po. Ma'am Rose, habang ina-open ko po, may tanong po si Ma'am Nenette sa chat box natin po.
Okay. Ayan. Meron ba sa Excel na mag-guide for critical path, etc.? Pagdating po doon sa critical path, we can use the Excel, no? May mga formulas lang po tayo na gagawin. So by tomorrow, yung plotting on the Excel, maipapakita ko po yung examples natin. Pero using just the simplified project planning na ginamit natin today, involving the different departments. Yes, ma'am, we will do that. Ayan. Okay, so sige, i-flash lang natin yung tools. We share this to you, pwede nyo siyang i-revise, no? So, ang naging example lang natin dito is yung vaccine for all members. So, di ba na-explain na natin on how you will consider na yung scope, yung time, yung budget. Maybe you can cite your own example, tapos how will you prioritize it? Will you consider it na constrained or optimize mo siya, yung budget optimize mo or compromise? Maybe we can reflect on using this for our existing project na rin, if you have existing projects right now. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so ito, reference natin on profiling the stakeholders. So next slide. Using that, can you answer the questions? Yung ating identified stakeholders. So who will be doing the work? Who is your project manager? Di ba sabi ko kanina, you can use your existing projects. Or maybe you can use your next coming projects. Tapos i-describe na lang natin kung ano yung mga involvement ng mga stakeholders natin. Okay, so what would be their roles, yung mission? What would be their roles in the project? And what would be their strengths and weaknesses? So pwede nyo itong hatiin into 3 columns or pwede naman na parang brainstorm manner lang, isulat na lang natin dito sa mga blanks natin sa table. Okay, next slide. Ayan. So sabi ko, i-profile natin yung mga stakeholders. After natin silang na-profile, what would be your strategies in keeping them satisfied, managing them, or monitoring them and keeping them informed? So next slide. Ayan. Now, after mong ma-identify who these people are, ano ngayon yung iyong mga activities involved? What would be the steps that you will take? Okay, so identify lang natin, are they high power, low interest, or low interest, low power? Okay, isulat natin dito, kung members yan, nasaan ang members natin here, no? So, depending on the project that you will describe at the beginning. Next slide. Okay. So, siguro hanggang dito aabot yung ating mga assignments, no? Yung mga gagawin natin. Sige, next slide natin. Okay. So, from the work breakdown schedules, can you create the same table? Like, ano yung pinaka-main project? Ito yung kaninang in-example ko na kung gagawa tayo ng event na General Assembly. So, ang sub-projects ko, I need a team for venue management, for program management or program developers. Ano yung mga work packages? Si venue would be the selection or preparing the venue for the event. Activities would be booking, paying, tapos backdraft design, venue dress up, no? Ayan mga tasks. So maybe you can do the same breakdown schedule para sa ating mga projects na ma-identify. Okay, next slide. Ayan. So, ayan, yung dependencies naman, no? So dito tayo natapos, pero I don't expect na you will complete up until here. Pero kung meron ka ng ideas, please do so, no? Kasi we haven't reached this part pa. Okay? So, kahit hanggang dun sa work breakdown. Ano ba yung mga kasunod na slides natin? Ayan. Okay, may critical pathing na rin na tayong assignment din pala. Sige, next slide. Ayan, wala na. So, what I usually do during training, by the end of the first day session, binibigay ko itong tool. Tapos, I ask them to plot their project based on the tool na provide natin. Tapos, we do some sharing in the beginning of the following session, the following day. Tapos, after presentation, there would be some additional inputs coming from the participant. Mag-comment sila or baka may mga new ideas sila na naisip din while the other teams are presenting. Ayan. So that we can develop yung mga programs nila or yung projects nila for their cooperatives. Kasi pwede mo itong gawin na activity or workshop para mismo doon sa cooperative na gusto mong bigyan ng project. Okay, so that will be all. Chin, thank you. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Rose. Ayan po, sinend po ni Ma'am Rose sa ating chat box yung tool. Nabanggit niya po kung hanggang saan yung pwede. Na ating assignment. So, pwedeng, sabi niya, pwedeng baguhin yung, yung example na mas personalize sa inyo yung project. Project daw po, wag daw po yung regular offerings, yung project daw po. So, kindly paki-answer po yung inyong assignment para tomorrow morning, yun po ay magkakaroon muna tayo ng konting recap and then reporting na po. And then, siguro kapag our time will allow, medyo may konting critiquing. Ma'am Rose, okay lang po ba sa time na 9 uli or merong kailangan adjustment po sa time para we can seek the, the majority if ever pong kailangan mag-extend ng time or mag-early beginning? Ma'am Rose, nakamute ka, Mama.
Maybe we need to ask them ano yung kanilang preferred time to start.
Okay. Pero sige po. Pero ma'am sa topic, naman, sakto pa naman, ma'am. Okay pa naman ito sa time sheet.
Yes.
Okay. Usually we start po ng 9, pero if you want to start early, meron po bang gustong mag-start early? Taas po ang kamay para awayin ng iba. Hindi, joke lang po. Kung sino po ang gustong mag-start ng 8:30, pero wala naman ang taas ng kamay, ang sabihin po nun, magsa-start po tayo ng 9 a.m. ulit tomorrow. Wala naman, okay, wala. So 9 a.m., kita po tayo tomorrow. Please prepare your assignment po. Hopefully, wala na tayong mga kidlat at mga ulan-ulan tomorrow. Sana kaawaan tayo para medyo smooth ang ating flow. Kung wala na pong tanong, wala na po bang tanong? Or clarification, dagdag, or even tanong po doon sa assignment kung wala na. Mukhang wala na, Ma'am Rose. Sige pa, nagzo-zoom pa yung mga camera ni Sir Hido. Amazing. Ayan, sige po. Kita-kita po tayo tomorrow. 9 a.m. po hanggang 12:30 para sa ating day 2. Day 2 at saka yung final day. Sa mga nag-open po ng camera, maraming salamat. Ngayon po, invite ko lahat na mag-open ng camera para sa ating picture taking. Yan. Ayun naman pala.
Nagbubukas ng camera.
Ngayon ang nagbukas ng camera. Nag-aayos pa ng mga buhok. Ayan. Yan. Okay. Sige. Okay, meron tayong 2 page lang naman ng ating Zoom. So, antay natin ng very konti lang yung ating mga iba. Walang camera ang PC. Very sad naman, Ma'am Glenda. Ayan. I-project natin yun. I-project talagang pagbili ng camera. Okay. Picture taking po tayo. Tingin po sa camera. First page tayo. Wala mo na po mag-chat para hindi matakban yung mga nasa laylayan ng Zoom. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Ayan, labas ang ipin dapat. Ang ganun dapat para masaya. Second page po tayo. 1, 2, 3, smile. Ayan. Marami pong salamat sa inyo. See you po tomorrow. More power po at saka more, galingan niyo po sa assignment niyo po. Bye-bye po. See you tomorrow.